What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 1PN Chapter 1 The spiky-headed boy wearing Hashirama clothes. East blew. The warm wind blew across the sea, like a nimble seabird, passing between the two ships. The smaller one was flying a pirate flag that combined a heart and a skull, and the other was an ordinary passenger ship. Young ones, let them see the power of the big pirate Alvida. The pirates threw ropes to connect the two ships and launched a boarding battle. Although there were far more people on the passenger ship than the pirates, ordinary pirates were enough to scare the guests on the ship from taking action, let alone the fact that there were so many pirates on board. There is a big pirate with a bounty of 5 million. Madara has small eyes, a big mouth, a face full of sparrows, fingernails as sharp as claws, severely sagging breasts, a nearly round body, and short limbs. Wearing a cowboy hat, shirt and pirate coat, with rings on almost all fingers, carrying a mace bar, and a pistol on his waist. The great pirate with a bounty of 5 million, Alvida. Kirby, who is the most beautiful person in the world? Of course it's you, beautiful Miss Alvida. Next to Alvida was a short boy with glasses and pink hair, Kebby, who was groveling and telling lies that went against his heart. That's right. Alvida walked towards the gathered passengers carrying the mace. Kirby can't do work that threatens others, but he will definitely be punished if he doesn't do the work. He had no choice but to come to the cabin and wanted to transport the barrel to the pirate ship. As soon as he reached the door, he encountered 3 pirates blocking his way. Hey, coward, do you want to hide here and be lazy again? No, I just want to move this big wine barrel. Ha 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 ha, let's help you make him lighter, I happen to be a little thirsty. As long as Kirby doesn't tell it, the captain won't know about it, right, Kirby? Kebby did not dare to refuse, so he could only nod with a trembling body. And just when the leading pirate was waving his fist and preparing to open the barrel. Pung! The lid of the barrel exploded in an instant, and a pair of long arms accurately hit the leading pirate's chin from deep inside the barrel, knocking him away. A voice that sounded very natural also sounded in the room. Ah, I slept so well. What emerged from the barrel was a young man wearing a straw hat and a red mandarin jacket, smiling as if he didn't know he was sad. He stepped out of the barrel. The blue shorts and slightly rough slippers on his lower body also came into view. He looked like a very kind-hearted young man. Looking at the pirate who was knocked down by him, he said very naturally, "You will catch a cold if you sleep here. It's not all your fault." The remaining 2 pirates broke through the defense and aimed their knives at the boy. The other party didn't even look at it. Instead, he turned around and asked Kebby if he had anything to eat. Seeing that their opponent was defenseless, the 2 pirates launched an attack, aiming at his back, hoping to kill him. The 2 knives were broken in the blink of an eye, and the broken front ends penetrated deeply into the ceiling. The boy who was attacked said nonchalantly, "What are you doing? It's very dangerous." The 2 pirates were already frightened and asked tremblingly, "Who are you?" "I'm Monkey D. Luffy, please give me your advice." After hearing the question, Luffy said his name without any thought, with a big smile on his face. Although Luffy seemed kind, the 2 pirates were still scared and ran away. They were still loyal and did not forget to take away their fainted partner. Kirby, who had collapsed to the ground, was very scared, but he still insisted on taking Luffy away. If Alvida found out, he would definitely be killed. Luffy, on the other hand, twitched his nose, searching for the smell of food. Regardless of the fact that Kirby was hanging on him, he followed it to the food storage room. "Ah, I finally found something to eat." Luffy went up to pick up an apple and ate it. Kirby closed the door of the storage room. It was quite safe here. If he hid, he might not be discovered by Alvida. He stepped forward and started talking to Luffy. He hadn't spoken to anyone other than pirates for several years. When he learned that Luffy's dream was to become the Pirate King, Kirby shook his head crazily. Impossible, impossible. One Piece wants to find the treasure that pirates all over the world are looking for, the legendary great secret treasure, One Piece. Impossible, impossible. Luffy punched Kirby on the head, stopping his impossible repetition. He took off his straw hat and picked up another apple, as if talking to someone. "It's not a question of whether it's possible or not, I want to be it because I want to be it. I have made up my mind to become the Pirate King. Even if I die in battle, it doesn't matter." Before Kirby could express his feelings, the ceiling shattered and a spiky-headed boy fell from the sky and hit Luffy on the head. Luffy's body was pressed to an angle that ordinary people couldn't do, and like a spring, the boy who fell from the sky bounced into the food pile. "Ah, it hurts, it hurts. Who are you? Where is this place?" The spiky-headed boy pushed the apple away from his body, rubbed his head and asked the 2 of them. Luffy and the 2 instantly turned into shark faces. "We are the ones asking you. What are you doing? You hit someone suddenly and all my apples fell off." The young man didn't seem to be too smart. He looked up and down at the clothes he was wearing. Wearing a black tight-fitting combat uniform with red laminated armor on the outside, the laminated armor on the left shoulder has the Senju clan's logo tattooed on it. The wrists of both hands are equipped with red iron bracers, making him look like a reincarnation of Hashirama. Then he touched his distinctive black hedgehog hair. "I think my name is Senju. No, Uchiha Shin, Pung. Before the three teenagers could chat, the door to the food storage room was forcefully opened, and a huge figure squeezed in. It was Alvida. I thought the noise was an enemy attack, but it turned out to be two little mice stealing food. What's wrong, Kebi? Is this the companion you found? Who is the most beautiful person in this sea of Kebi? Kebi trembled and wanted to answer, but Alvida's long-standing power made him have no idea of resistance. The long-standing question and answer has almost become his instinct. Of course. But two people were one step ahead of him. Luffy and Shin spoke at the same time. Who is this rude ant? Big ant. The pirates who were watching were stunned. These words stepped on Alvida's back. Who are you calling the ant? The veins on her forehead bulged and she was brandishing a huge mace. Alvida was about to attack Luffy, who was close. Kang. It's the sound of steel colliding. Hey, 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 not only does he look bad, but his personality is also not good. Are you going to take action if you don't agree with me? Like an instinctive reaction, Shin came to Luffy, blocked the attack with the wrist guard on his arm, and also launched a taunt. Oh, I seem to be quite powerful. Shin was confused at first, then spoke with a look of surprise, and then frowned again, as if he was thinking about something. He didn't notice at all that Alvida had pulled away, raised the iron rod, and was about to attack again. I already told you who you call ant. The iron rod was aimed at Shin's head from top to bottom. This time, Luffy took Shin and nimbly jumped out of the attack range and came to Kabi's side. What are you doing? It's very dangerous. Shin also finally came to his senses. Sorry. He first apologized to Luffy with an apologetic expression. It was indeed his fault for being distracted on the battlefield. Then he looked at Alvida eagerly, gesturing with something in his hand. In a burst of smoke, Alvida looked at the two of them with a gloomy face. Two slippery rats, watch me smash you into pieces. His eyes turned to Kebi behind the two of them. Kirby, do you want to resist me too? Perhaps influenced by Luffy's previous words, Kebi was trembling all over, but he still mustered up the courage to shout. That's right. You ugly fat bitch, one day first will become Marine and arrest you. Ha! Alvida has never been insulted like this in all the years she has been in East Blue. Her facial features, which were not spacious, became even tighter in anger. She raised her mace, intending to smash the three annoying brats in front of her. Before Luffy could step forward to resist, Shin finally remembered the magic seal. Si Wei Shen Hai Wu Yin, fire-style great fireball technique. With his cheeks slightly puffed up, Nobu erupted a huge fireball from his mouth and attacked Alvida. Without enough time to dodge, Alvida was hit head-on, and was hit by the impact of the fireball on the deck. The pirates who were watching were shocked and a little panicked, and Kebi was stunned with his mouth wide open. Only Luffy's eyes shone brightly, staring at Shin's back. The letter that turned around was almost blinded by the flash, giving a thumbs up and a youthful smile. Formal introduction, I am Uchiha Nobu, a ninja. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 2 Uchiha Letter. Be my partner, Shin. Wiping the saliva from the corner of his mouth, Luffy took a look at the cool ninja in front of him. Shin was a little confused. He thought Luffy was just a more skilled sailor. Partner? Are you a pirate? Ah, I'm Monkey D. Luffy, the man who's going to become the Pirate King. Luffy put his hands on his hips and grinned. Being a pirate is not a good status. Nobu wanted to refuse, but suddenly there was a pain in his mind. The voices around him were still, but he heard countless people speaking Chinese again. Listen carefully to the layered voice, which keeps repeating one sentence. Promise him. As the sound continues to repeat, the resistance in the faith gradually weakens. Until the stinging pain and auditory hallucinations disappeared, he no longer had any thoughts of resisting, and he completely forgot about the scene just now, as if his subconscious was urging him to agree from the beginning to the end. Okay, please give me some advice, Captain. Finally, Shin decided to follow his feelings. Luffy jumped up and danced happily. That's great, I didn't expect to find my first partner just after I went to sea. He is also a super cool ninja. Next, we just need to find 9 more people. There must be a musician. How can there be no music during the banquet? Kebi was stunned on the side, obviously not understanding how the two people in front of him could discuss these things while surrounded by enemies. Then, I'll leave these enemies to you, Captain. I need to take a short rest. The letter pointed to Alvida, who had gotten up again, and the pirates around her. As we all know, fire style cannot burn anyone. Oh, leave it to me. Luffy patted his right arm that was raised into a fist with his left hand, full of energy and ready to fight. Ignoring the chaotic battlefield and kicking a few blind pirates to Luffy's side, Shin led Kirby to the corner of the deck. He needs to sort out his situation. Uchiha Nobu, an 18-year-old time traveler, comes from a world called Gaia, where there is an anime called Hokage Ninja, which is why Nobu calls himself a ninja. Putting aside his previous identity, he found that he came to this world when he was 15 years old. But the memories are intermittent, and it seems that a lot of memories have been hidden. As for why Shin fell from the sky and landed on this ship, it is unknown. Untying the wristband on his left hand, he always felt that there was something important there. Sure enough, there was a small sealing technique carved on his forearm. After thinking for a while, he unlocked the seal. Pung. A huge scroll was released from the seal with smoke. When it was opened, countless ninjutsu were recorded on it. The first one that bears the brunt is the Great Fireball technique, which looks very familiar, as if I already know this ninjutsu. After all, I just thought about it and used it. Looking back, I saw that many of the ninjutsu looked familiar. Now is not the time for experiments, so Shin untied the wrist guard on his right hand again. There is also a small sealing technique on the arm. With the experience of his left hand, Shin quickly unlocked it. It's also a scroll, but it records physical skills and illusions. Except for a few illusions, nothing looks familiar this time. Resealing the two scrolls, closing his eyes, Nobu vaguely remembered that he had Uchiha's bloodline, mobilized his spiritual power to focus on his eyes, and when he opened them again, they had turned into red eyes. Because there was no mirror and the iron wristband was rough and non-reflective, Shin could only ask Kirby beside him. Kirby, stop looking at Luffy like a lover, look at my eyes. From the beginning, Kirby's eyes never left Luffy. Kirby was startled by the sudden voice of the person next to him, turned around and hurriedly explained. Please don't say that, Mr. Ixon. I'm just worried about Luffy-san. After all, aren't you friends? Why aren't you feeling nervous at all? Luffy's words are all right. Compared to this, help me see how many tomo I have in my eyes. Shin also paid attention to Luffy's fighting, and after confirming that Luffy could easily deal with these miscellaneous fish, he looked away. How can there be magatama in a person's eyes, Nobu-san? Ah, there really is one, and the pupils have turned red. Kirby didn't believe it at first, but after confirming it carefully, he said in surprise. The letter was a bit regretful. It's only one magatama. I thought I would give you an eternal Mangekyo at the beginning. Rubber rocket launcher. Luffy's battle finally ended, as the rubber rocket launcher sent Alvida flying into the sky. Seeing that their boss had been defeated, the remaining pirates fled in all directions without any intention of avenging their boss. But that didn't give them any time to rest. Marine arrived belatedly and finally appeared after Luffy had finished dealing with the enemies. Shin, I'm about to run away. Marine is here, just in time. Kirby, aren't you going to join Marine? Luffy asked the remaining pirates for a small boat, and while talking to Kirby, he took the letter and ran away. A small sailboat fell from the sky and hit the sea. There were 3 teenagers on the boat. Now was not the time to join the Marine, so Kirby followed the 2 of them. The splash of water also splashed on another small boat, a girl wearing a dark blue top and short orange hair. Marine was so close that now was not the time to chat, so the 2 ships separated. On the calm sea, Kirby was scouting around, and Luffy hugged Shin. Do it again, that cool fireball, please, please. After getting rid of the enemy, Luffy's childish nature was exposed, and he hung on Shin and asked him to perform ninjutsu. I refuse. Ninjutsu is a technique for defeating enemies, not something for street performances. Shin pretended to refuse with a cold face. Luffy didn't say anything. He got off Shin's body and stared at him with a particularly sincere look. When Shin turned his head, he also turned his head, insisting that the 2 of them looked at each other. In the end, Shin couldn't stand it any longer and was defeated. Okay. Once I figure out my abilities, I'll give you a great fireball later. After receiving a satisfactory answer, Luffy turned back to harass Kirby, and Shin also had time to carefully confirm what abilities he had mastered. The first is the pupil technique. Both eyes are one tomo Sharingan, which is an eye of insight that can detect the subtle movements of the enemy. Secondly, in terms of ninjutsu, in addition to the great fireball that he has used, Shin also masters the basic free body technique, most of the fire style ninjutsu and some other ninjutsu. Of course, it just feels familiar. You can only confirm after trying it for a while. Meeting. Then there are taijutsu and genjutsu. None of the physical skills feel familiar. Except for 8 inner gates, Shin doesn't think it is necessary to learn the rest of the physical skills. He still likes to be a fort mage or just use 8 inner gates to be a reckless man. There are only 3 genjutsu that feel familiar, the Kasumi servant technique, the fox heart technique, and the magical Narakumi technique. Finally, there is the problem of my body, why I have lost so much memory, and why there is a seal on my body even though there is no scroll of sealing technique. Alas, Shin sighed. It was obvious that he couldn't get the answer to his last question. Putting aside these worries for now, he decided to have some fun. Hey, Luffy. What's wrong? Water style water dragon bomb technique. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 3 New Island and Letter Seal. Sanjing Hua Yuan Ju Dian Ming Gu Wu Pu Mi Rakuten Travel HK. 505 Hong Kong dollars Rakuten Travel. Ri Ben Xing Ne Ling Xian Wang Sheng Lu Xing Shi. Sorry. Shin sincerely apologized to the Luffy ball filled with water. I didn't know you couldn't swim. I thought pirates were good swimmers. Isn't it common sense that demon fruit power cannot touch seawater? It wasn't Luffy who said that. He had passed out and was still spraying water like a little fountain. It was Kirby who answered the letter while pressing Luffy's belly to help induce vomiting. Shin scratched the hedgehog's head, feeling somewhat embarrassed. After all, it was himself who caused Luffy to become like this, but it turned out that Kirby was taking care of him. Let me help too. I'm good at drying clothes. Fire style, great fireball technique. Forming seals, breathing fire, and lighting the sails, all in one go. Kirby and Shin looked at each other speechlessly at the burning sail, while Luffy was still playing the role of a small fountain. Hee, I originally just wanted to spray a small flame. The boat was quiet when Luffy woke up. He raised his head in confusion and looked around. There was a bare mast above, and a huddled shadow sitting in the corner, which looked like Kirby. Kirby, what's wrong? Where's the letter? Where's our sail? Is there a marine chasing us? Kirby said nothing and pointed in the direction of the stern of the ship. Luffy looked up and saw the letter gathering chakra on the soles of his feet, stepping on the sea. As he was working hard to push the boat forward, he looked up and saw Luffy waking up. He grinned very naturally and said hello. Hey, Luffy, do you want to work out together when you wake up? Sea gay. You can actually run on the sea. Luffy first read the letter with bright eyes. For a landlubber, being able to swim was worthy of envy, let alone running on the sea. But Luffy quickly realized that he seemed to have been hit by a water dragon bomb. Ah, Shin, you guy, why are you throwing water at me? Sorry, I'll show you a great fireball later, okay? No, I want to see too, then I'll spray you 4 times. There is really nothing I can do, it seems I can only forgive you. The two reached a consensus in a few words, completely ignoring Kirby's slightly trembling body when he heard the great fireball. As he spoke, Shin jumped onto the boat, preparing to perform a fire-breathing performance as a street performer. Luffy also thought of the empty mast. Speaking of which, what about our sails? I remember they originally had sails. Ah. This is that. Just now a big bird flew over and took the sail away. It was very fast. The fireballs I sprayed didn't even burn it. You think so, Kirby? Yes, there is a fireball, and the big bird didn't even burn it. Kirby in the corner. Arriving at the bow of the ship, Shin was about to start performing when Sharingan saw some shadows on the sea in the distance, an island. The 3 of them finally came to a new town. There were many vendors along the street. Kirby regained his energy, and Luffy went crazy. He wanted to take a bite of whatever he saw. Speaking of which, what's our next move, Luffy? Shin asked his captain while eating fruit. Luffy's mouth was full of food, and he still had a lot of food in his hand. He muttered in reply. As for the next step, I'd better gather my partners first. It would be best to find a musician. Any target candidates? Shin snatched a piece of fruit from Luffy's hand. No. Luffy snatched a piece of fruit from Kirby's hand. If you are looking for a partner, I know a relatively strong person is on this island. Kirby couldn't get it from anyone, so he could only buy another fruit. I heard someone say that the marine here captured a guy called a monster, a pirate hunter, Roronoa Zoro. Hearing Zoro's name, the originally bustling street suddenly became quiet. The surrounding vendors all took a step back, as if they were afraid of this man known as the monster. It seems that Mr. Warcraft is famous. Seeing the reactions of the people around him, Shin instantly became interested. Just mentioning his name could scare civilians back, so he was probably a pretty capable guy. But if he was really strong, how could he be caught by marine? Luffy was a little confused. I heard that there is a marine colonel here who captured the pirate crow, Colonel Monka. He must have captured the evil pirate hunter. Kirby spoke with excitement. His dream was to join the marines, so he naturally longed for those powerful marines. But the reaction of the people around him was a bit wrong. After hearing Menka's name, everyone who had taken a step back was frightened and moved back even more. It seemed that Menka was more terrifying than Zoro. This Colonel Menka has an even more vicious reputation. He seems to be a great villain. Let's find a way to get him to join the gang, Luffy. Kobe didn't understand, let alone Zoro, why everyone would feel scared when they heard Marine's name. He shook his head, but he still insisted on his concept of Marine's justice. There must be some misunderstanding here. Yoshi, let's go to Marine Base and see that legendary monster. I won't go to the captain. I'm going to find a store to change my clothes. Luffy and Kirby were going to Marine Base to find out what was going on. Nobu felt that the red armor on his body was too conspicuous, so he was going to go to a clothing store to buy some clothes. He fumbled in his pocket before and found that he still had some money, about 100,000 belly. But first, he had to change to another street. The people on this street were frightened and probably would no longer do his business. Wandering to a clothing store owned by an old lady, Shin changed all his clothes. He took off all the red armor on his body and the black battlesuit lining. This removal also made him realize that something was wrong with his body. Through the mirror in the dressing room, Shin could see that there was a sealing technique on his back. Compared to the small technique that seals the scroll on the arm, the technique on the back is larger, covering almost the entire back. Guiding the chakra to flow towards the seal, Shin wants to try to crack it, or find some familiar feeling to try to understand what is sealed by this technique. Unfortunately, none of them succeeded. The seal was like an ordinary tattoo, without any movement. He patted his face, and a slightly irritable face was reflected in the mirror. When he and Luffy were together, there was someone to distract his attention. When he was alone, those suppressed emotions came up. Who am I? What did I do in the 3 years I lost? What happened to the seal on me? Was it sealed by the enemy or was it made by myself? And what is the meaning of it if it was done by me? When Luffy invited him, Shin's subconscious kept urging him to agree, as if by following Luffy he could find what he had lost, so he, who didn't like pirates very much, joined in. Oh, I hope my subconscious won't lie to me. He sighed, thinking about it now and getting no answer. Shin started to change into new clothes. The upper body is a black loose short-sleeved shirt, and the lower body is khaki trousers. A knife bag is tied to the left leg, and black sandals are worn on the feet. There are sealing techniques on both hands and forearms that others cannot understand. Looking behind me, I always felt like something was missing. Mother-in-law, can you sew a fan mark on the back of this short-sleeved shirt? The one with red top and white bottom. After coming out of the clothing store, Shin wandered around again, found a store that sold weapons, bought some kunai, shurikens and steel wires and put them into a knife bag, and then began to slowly search for Luffy's location. The next step is to find Luffy and meet the legendary monster. There seemed to be a dispute in the hotel not far away, and screams and the sound of flesh colliding could be heard endlessly. Let me guess, the commotion there is definitely not caused by Luffy. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 4 The Legendary Warcraft. You bastard, just wait to be executed by my father. Before he even entered the door, Shin heard an arrogant and domineering voice barking. After waiting at the door for a while, sure enough, soon a man with yellow hair and his men ran out of the store in embarrassment and headed straight for the marine base. So, I went to buy something. How did it end up like this? Looking at the mess in the store, Shin couldn't help but feel a headache. His captain was indeed a troublemaker. I have decided, Nobu, I want Zoro to be our partner. Luffy looked determined. It seemed that in a short period of time, this monster had attracted Luffy. Okay, I understand, so what exactly happened here? Shin stepped forward and patted Luffy on the shoulder helplessly. At least let me know the cause and effect. Kirby, who was standing behind Luffy, popped up and answered the letter's question. The man who just walked out is named Belmeber, and he is the son of Colonel Monkar. About 3 weeks ago, Belmeber took advantage of his position and brought a vicious dog to Liga's store to wreak havoc. I just happened to bump into Zoro who was eating here. He took action and killed the vicious dog directly, but Belmeber moved out and used Monka as his backer. Although he was alone and could leave whenever he wanted, Liga's family still lived here. When Belmeber threatened Liga, Zoro gave up his resistance. Instead, I accepted a bet from Belmebo. As long as Zoro can be tied up in the base playground and deprived of food and water for a month, Belmebo will let Liga go. Speaking of this, Kebi looked very angry. Those guys don't deserve to be called Marines at all. Zoro-san has been carrying it for 3 weeks and is almost successful. Belmeber has no intention of abiding by the agreement and wants to execute Zoro directly tomorrow. This is why Luffy-san wants to beat him. The one who is called a monster is a good person, but the righteous Marine is actually a villain. It's really dramatic. Then the next action is very simple. Returning to Marine Base again, Luffy used Zoro's 3 knives as a threat to ask Zoro to join. Regardless of whether the other party agreed or not, he rushed directly into the base to find a knife. Kirby appeared after Luffy left. After explaining to Zoro, he began to try to untie the rope that tied him. The letter came last, and he went to the restaurant to pack some rice balls. Slowly walked up to Zoro and looked at this legendary monster carefully. Wearing a dark green headscarf, white short-sleeved upper body, green bellyband wrapped around the waist, dark green trousers, and black boots. The most eye-catching thing is the short green hair under the headscarf and the 3 golden drop-shaped earrings on the left ear. While eating rice balls and looking around Zoro, Shin couldn't help but sigh. Even after being hungry for 3 weeks, the man in front of him still looked very imposing. It's indeed a World of Warcraft, but it's a little too green. Who are you? Get out of here, this is not the place you should be. I'm Uchiha Nobu, a ninja. You should have seen a man wearing a straw hat just now, right? That's my captain. Ignoring Zoro's somewhat aggressive tone, he also knew that the other party just didn't want to involve irrelevant people. Shin raised a rice ball and placed it in front of Zoro's eyes. Want to eat it? Mr. Warcraft, this is what the little girl specially made. And just when Zoro opened his mouth to eat, Shinji took his hand back and said, if you want to eat, join us and we will eat. Shut up, bastard, who wants to eat? A guy as bad as your captain. A few veins appeared on Zoro's head. What kind of people did he meet today? Luffy threatened him with his knife to join, and the new ninja tempted him to join with rice balls. There are 2 kinds of people who can't sleep on a ship, right? Not paying attention to Zoro's answer, Shin put the remaining rice balls into the package and asked a question that he was very curious about. Speaking of which, Zoro, you've been tied up here for 3 weeks, right? Ah, if that bastard hadn't planned to keep his promise, I would have lasted for a month. Can you tell me how you go to the toilet? Shin looked at Zoro with a smirk in disgust. After all, 3 weeks without eating can be said to be strong and strong-willed, but 3 weeks without going to the toilet is unjustifiable, and Zoro has been tied up, which means that he wants to if you go to the toilet. What does it have to do with you, you bastard? Zoro yelled angrily at the letter, but the blush on his face from embarrassment gave him away. Kebi did not participate in the conversation between the two, and kept trying to untie the rope. The rope was tied very tightly, and Kebi couldn't untie it even after working for a long time. Shin has no intention of helping. Although Zoro can be saved with a kunai cut, Zoro has not yet agreed to join, so there is no need to save him. Instead, he quarreled tirelessly with Zoro. This monster looked very serious, but unexpectedly had a bit of a charade. But this is Marine base, and no matter how slow Marine is, he still spots the three of them. That's it. How dare you come to my territory and run wild? With a huge axe in his right hand and a steel jaw on his face, Colonel Menka, who was 2.85 meters tall and stood out among the crowd, came here with several soldiers holding guns. Shoot. Without any unnecessary nonsense, Menka directly ordered to shoot the three people. Pung. Gunshots rang out, and dense bullets were fired at the three of them. Zoro looked at the bullets with an unwilling face, as if he saw the little girl from the past again. How could I die in a place like this? The agreement with my best friend has not yet been fulfilled, and my name has not yet been resounding in heaven. Do I have to die like this? Kirby, who had always longed for Marine, burst into tears. He never thought that he would die under the Marine whom he adored. Letter. Through the window on the second floor, Luffy could see the scene on the playground, but it was too late to rush over now, so he could only shout at the position of the letter. Earth-style wall. Shin was already prepared when Menka and others arrived. Although it was the first time to use it, Shin still used this Earth-style ninjutsu. With both hands slapping the ground in front of the three of them rose up, forming a thick earth wall. The bullets fired on it raised fine dust. Although there was no dog head, it perfectly blocked the attack. Who are you, this guy? Zoro asked in shock. He had never seen such a fighting method in his life. Zoro could dodge such a shot, or block part of it with his knife, but it was impossible for him to block all the bullets as easily as Shin did. I remember I introduced myself before. Uchiha Nobu, he is a ninja. Shin stood up, clapped his hands, and lifted the earth flow wall. The earth wall slowly lowered, and the ground became flat again. Luffy also broke the window on the second floor and jumped down, coming to the three of them with 3 knives on his back, which looked like they should be Zoro's weapons. Without returning the weapon to Zoro first, Luffy turned to give the letter a thumbs up. Nice, letter. No problem, Captain. Ads by Big Gear. Chapter 5 The Mysterious Girl and Nobu's Ninjutsu Performance. Here, your weapons. Since I don't know which one they are, I took them all out. Luffy held the 3 knives in front of Zoro. All 3 swords are mine, I am the 3 sword style. It sounds awesome. You will accept it and become my partner. If you resist here, you will become a villain who opposes Marine. Or do you think it is better to be killed by Marine like this? Luffy seemed to have no brains, but he knew some things by himself, and he started to threaten Zoro with a smile. Zoro also laughed, having already made up his mind. Are you the son of the devil? Instead of dying here, why not become a pirate? Luffy raised the 3 knives above his head and danced happily. Great, I have a new partner. After hearing Zoro's answer, Shin took out a kunai and cut the rope. He couldn't watch his close partner being tied to a wooden stake and suffering. Zoro, who hadn't eaten for a long time, fell down, stretched his stiff shoulders, raised his head and shouted to the letter. You bastard, you could have cut the rope long ago. Did you just have fun with me? Don't say that, Zoro, I'm your senior. Those were the tests your senior put to you just now. Shin took out the 3 rice balls and handed them to Zoro. Eat something, it's not over yet. Zoro was not polite, took the rice ball and ate it hungrily. Now then, Luffy, can I leave for a moment? Ah, okay, what are you going to do? Let's make money, make money. The sail of our boat was taken away by a big bird. I can't keep pushing the boat. Besides, the boat is too small. If possible, we will try to change it to a bigger one. Although it was the big bird that took away the sail, Shin believed that he had some responsibility and took the initiative to consider for the team. Step on the wall to the second floor and enter through the window that Luffy broke. If you want to find the treasure, it should be Menka's room. It's not complicated here. It didn't take long for Shin to find Menka's office. Strangely, the 2 Marines guarding the door had already been tied up. Shin looked at the scene at the door and thought, did Luffy do it? No, Luffy doesn't have the IQ. Someone must have gotten in first. Ignoring the 2 people who were tied up, Shin pushed the door open and entered. In the center of the room is a huge desk with just 2 books and a quill. On the left is the cabinet, but it has been opened, and there are many vases above for decoration. The right side is relatively empty, with only 2 barrels and a butt. But, Shin rubbed his eyes to make sure it wasn't his Sharingan's old eyes that were dizzy. It does have an orange butt, and it twitches. Found it, this is it. The girl's voice full of surprise echoed in the room, as she straightened up. The first thing that catches the eye is short orange hair, blue and white striped short sleeves on the upper body, and an orange butt covering skirt underneath. It is obvious that this girl is the master of the butt. Shin stood at the door and said to the girl's back, hey, stealing is bad behavior. The girl was startled, but she quickly reacted and turned to face the letter. At the same time, he put his hands behind his back, glanced around, and spoke slightly nervously. Ah, I am the cleaner here, I was just cleaning. Shin slowly approached the girl until he was in front of her and saw the open safe behind the girl. What's in the safe? Let me see it. Hey, what is it? It was empty when I arrived. The girl answered the letter's question while slowly moving to escape from here. Little did she know that a smooth plate on the ground behind her had exposed her. It looks black through the reflection. Seeing that what the girl hid was a piece of yellowed paper, Shin lost his desire to continue asking questions. After all, he was looking for money. It's best to use cash or something that can be used on the spot. Ignoring the girl, Shin continued to look at the room to see where the money seemed to be stored. When the girl saw that Shin didn't pay attention to her, she hurriedly rushed out the door. Not much cash was found in the base. After asking the tied-up soldiers, it turned out that most of the money in the base was used to make the giant statue on the roof. What a waste. Taking away Menka's last bit of savings, although he couldn't afford to buy a new boat, it was more than enough to buy a sail. Hanging the new sail on the boat, Shin showed a satisfied smile and turned around to see the thief lady he met earlier also boarding a boat and preparing to set sail. Shin waved his hands enthusiastically and said hello. Hey, Miss Thief. Where is the next stop? Do you want to go with us? The girl didn't answer and silently raised the sail. It wasn't until the ship moved forward for a while that it was some distance away from the coast. Then the girl turned back and made a face at the letter. None of your business, idiot. Shin just smiled when he saw it and had no intention of chasing after him with chakra. Quite a personality. After fixing the ship to the shore with a rope, he planned to return to the town to find Luffy and Zoro, but he did not expect that the two had already arrived at the port. That's so fast, aren't you going to take a rest here? No, let's go like this. He was expelled. He really looks like a pirate. The two untied the rope and boarded the boat. Shin took Luffy's small package, which was quite considerate and contained some food. No need to be polite, just sit on the boat and start eating, raise the sail, and a new adventure is about to set sail. Luffy-san. Kebi and Lija's mother and daughter came to the shore. Kebi gave Luffy a marine salute. Thank you very much, Mr. Luffy, I will never forget this kindness. Salute. Marine in the base came to the shore at some point, stood next to Kirby, and neatly saluted Luffy to express his gratitude. Luffy stood at the stern of the boat, waving his hands to say goodbye to everyone. I've never seen Marine salute a pirate before. We pirates really failed, Luffy. What does it matter? The result is pretty good, isn't it? Luffy replied with a smile. By the way, Nobu, we promised to perform the Great Fireball before. Oh, you weren't here during the battle. I want to see more ninjutsu. What the heck? Shin can also breathe fire. Is he really the kind of ninja I imagined? I thought he also had demon fruit power. Zoro also became interested. He had seen the earth flow wall before and thought it was devil fruit's ability. Yes, I have seen it. There is a great fireball. Last time it hit me with water, and it can also run on the sea. We used to push the boat here by faith. Moreover, plus that big earth wall, Shin has 4 powers. Luffy counted on his fingers, and proudly raised 4 fingers to point at Zoro. Shin looked at the two of them with a disappointed look on his face, raised a finger and waved it in front of their eyes. Superficial, too superficial. I think you guys don't understand it at all. Arriving at the stern of the ship, facing the empty sea, Shin was ready to let the two of them see what it means to be a real ninja. Fire-style dragon fire. A shuriken tied with a wire flew high into the sky, and the flames from its mouth spread along the wire at an extremely fast speed, forming a straight line of fire. Luffy applauded very proudly, and Zoro also looked at the letter with a surprised look on his face. Fire-style great fireball. His cheeks bulged, and a huge fireball erupted from his mouth, falling to the sea where a small amount of seawater evaporated to form water vapor. Fire-style Howlong fire. In the advanced version of the great fireball, the flames form a vivid dragon head, and you can even hear the roar, falling to the sea surface and stirring up more seawater. Oh, see gay. Luffy's whole body was glowing with excitement. Hey, it looks pretty awesome. Zoro couldn't help but praise with a smile. Shin couldn't help but feel a little carried away by his partner's praise, and he prepared for the whole big event. Fire-style Longyun singing technique. With the upgrade of Dragonfire, 4 flame dragon heads will be sprayed from its mouth to attack the enemy. Probably the 3 fire styles evaporated too much seawater, and the ship shook a bit at this time. Shin's foot slipped, and his body fell uncontrollably to the right. Fortunately, Shin's balance was good, and he regained his balance by twisting his waist to the left. The twisting of the waist caused the head to twist to the left. The ninjutsu was also completed at this time, and Nobu spewed out 4 flame dragon heads from his mouth. One of them came from the bottom up and nearly burned Zoro's hair off. Fortunately, Zoro was quick and he ducked down to avoid the flames. Veins popped out on his forehead. He pointed the unsheathed knife at Shin and shouted with sharp teeth. Asshole, you did it on purpose, right? Zoro did not answer the letter, and Luffy also became quiet. Zoro felt a little strange. After dodging the attack, he still felt hot on his back. When he turned his head, the sail started to burn. The ship fell into silence for a while, and Shin was the first to break the silence and asked. Is that move I just made okay? Super handsome? Although I was almost accidentally injured, I have to say that it is very powerful. It's burning. Yes. Letter, ads by Big Gear. Chapter 6 Hedgehog-head and Green, Algae Head, Nami, the thief who specializes in stealing pirates. On the calm sea, a small boat hoisted the flag of the Buggy pirates. The 3 pirates on the ship were celebrating today's harvest, filling a small box with treasure. Hey, look over there. one of the pirates spotted a smaller sailboat in the distance. This aroused their interest and they turned to the vicinity of the boat. I saw a girl with short orange hair lying on the edge of the boat, looking very weak. When she heard a ship approaching, the girl raised her head with an overjoyed expression. "Ah, I didn't expect to meet people on the vast sea. Although I don't know who you are, can you please give me water? Just a little." The girl pointed to a box at the stern of the ship that seemed to be filled with treasures. "If you want money, I can give it all to you, please help me." Surrounded by an empty and deserted sea, with a delicate and bullying girl on board, the trio immediately had a bad idea. "I can save you, but we need to check the box first." Unsuspecting, they arrived on the boat one by one, but the box was harder to open than they thought. It took them a while to open the lock. Before they could open the treasure box, the lid opened by itself, and a doll panda head popped out under the action of the spring. There is no treasure at all, it's just a doll box used to scare people. The girl had already boarded their ship and was driving the ship away. She no longer felt weak just now, and she was still waving to them goodbye. "If you like it, I'll give it all to you, including the ship." She looked up at the weather. There are low dark clouds in the southern sky and a cold front has been spotted. I predict there will be a storm soon. Please note that the boat can easily capsize. Ah, indeed, as the girl said, a local storm soon began, and before the three people on the boat had time to prepare, the boat capsized. "Ah, I'm so bored, and I'm so hungry. Nobu, can you use ninjutsu to conjure something to eat? Please don't push me. Besides, Zoro has banned me from using ninjutsu on the boat." The bruised Shin muttered in response to Luffy's question. Because he burned the sail, he was beaten up by Luffy and Zoro. Zoro also banned Shin from using ninjutsu on the boat. Speaking of which, are we really not going to die on the sea? Although I was asked to row the boat, neither of you knows how to sail. Forget it, Luffy. Zoro, haven't you been a bounty hunter for several years? Didn't you rely on drifting to determine the course before? Zoro leaned against the edge of the boat, ignoring the question of why he didn't know how to sail, and answered casually. "I remember that I called myself a pirate hunter. I set out to sea with the goal of a man. But I couldn't find my way back to the village, so I had no choice but to kill some pirates to earn the bounty." "What? It turns out you were a road idiot. TCH, you, a fire-breathing hedgehog, have no right to criticize me." "Huh? What is a hedgehog hair? This is my hairstyle, it's a trend, you green algae head?" "Shut up, how can you, a sail-burning pink eye, have the confidence to be so arrogant?" "I'm very confident. At least I won't be like some third-rate swordsman who can't find his way back to the village." Perhaps because they became familiar with each other, the two of them lost their previous differences. The letter is no longer rowing, just like a bullfight with Zoro's forehead, you and I express the friendship between partners with each word. Hedgehog head, green algae head, ah, I'm so hungry. Luffy dove in between the two of them, lying on the deck, forcibly ending the friendly exchange between the two parties. Normally, he might have joined in with enthusiasm, but now he only cares about when he can eat. He turned over and looked at the sky with dull eyes. A shadow appeared in his sight. It was a bird. "Yoshi, let's take this for lunch, rubber rocket launcher." He stretched out his hands, grabbed both sides of the mast, and launched himself into the sky like a slingshot. But Luffy obviously underestimated the size of the bird, and with a bang, there was an extra Luffy head in the bird's beak. "Shin, Zoro, help me, that idiot." Shin and Zoro were on one side, sliding the oars wildly, chasing the big bird. Three figures appeared on the sea as they moved forward. They were the three pirates who encountered the storm. The other party shouted for help, but there was no time to stop and wait for them now. They were considered to be very agile and grabbed the edge while the two rowed over and climbed up. As soon as they came up, they took out their daggers and prepared to rob the ship. "Stop the ship, we are Buggy the Clown's men, we want to order this ship." "Ah hee, it turns out to be the famous pirate hunter Mr. Zoro and his companions. We really deserve death. It was really rude to offend you two unintentionally just now." The new guests on the boat were very polite. With just 3 punches, they took the initiative to take on the task of rowing. Shin stood at the bow of the boat, using the enhanced vision brought by Sharingan to confirm Luffy's position, while Zoro rested against the edge of the boat. The ship sailed quickly and firmly in the direction of a small island. In the quiet town, a girl with short orange hair was running wildly on the street, holding a rolled-up yellowed blueprint in her hand. Even if the situation was urgent, she couldn't help but chuckle. "Great, finally got it." Behind the girl, there were 3 knife-wielding pirates chasing her. Apparently, the thing in the girl's hand was stolen from them. "Stop, bitch. That's the Grand Line's nautical chart we just grabbed." A big bird flew over the sky, holding a human figure in its mouth, but it was hit by a cannonball in an instant. Although it was not fatal, it let go of its mouth. Ah, Luffy landed on his head and fell hard to the ground between the pirate and the girl. Fortunately, because of his rubber constitution, Luffy was fine. He stood up, patted the soil, and put on his straw hat. "Fortunately, I was saved. This journey was really interesting." Looking at Luffy, who was a little stupid, the girl suddenly had an idea in her mind. He clasped his hands on his chest and came to Luffy with a look of surprise. "Boss, you came to save me. You are truly worthy of being the boss. I'll leave this place to you. I'm leaving first. After saying this, the girl turned around and ran away like a heartless scumbag and disappeared after passing a corner. The trio chasing her also didn't have enough IQ, and they identified Luffy as her boss in just a few words. Regardless of Luffy's explanation, he punched him in the face, knocking the straw hat away. Luffy originally wanted to explain it clearly, but the straw hat was his most cherished treasure, and now someone actually took action against it. He knocked down the pirate who took action with one punch, caught the slowly falling straw hat, put it on his head, and dispatched the remaining two people in 2 or 3 strokes. The running girl didn't know when she arrived on the roof next to the street. After seeing the scene just now, she called out to Luffy. "Hey, you are very strong. You can take care of them in 2 or 3 strokes." "Ah, you are the one just now. Who are you?" "I am a thief who specializes in stealing pirate treasures. Nami, do you want to join forces with me?" "No, I don't want to join forces with you." Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 7 Trap Luffy and Huxon. "Ah, delicious, you are such a good person." Luffy ate a burger in one bite and muttered to Nami. Luffy had previously rejected Nami's invitation to cooperate. After all, he was plotted against her the first time they met. But if she has breasts, she is a mother, and whoever feeds her when she is hungry is a good person. Nami still wanted to win over Luffy, so she proposed to treat him to dinner, and the two came to this uninhabited house. Nami is not the owner here. Buggy the clown is entrenched on the edge of the town, and the residents of the town have all moved away out of fear. The Grand Line navigation chart in her hand was stolen from Buggy's camp. No matter what, she wanted to earn 100 million belly, even if she took the risk and came to this territory occupied by pirates. As long as she had the navigation chart, earning 100 million belly would not be a dream. Navigation chart. Are you a navigator? Luffy, who was concentrating on eating, didn't pay attention to Nami's random thoughts at first, but when he heard the words, navigation chart, he instantly became energetic. "I'm better than a navigator." Speaking of this, Nami was very confident, gesturing with his fists to show that he was very strong in this area. "Well, would you like to join our pirate group as a navigator?" "Pirates? Are you a pirate?" Nami's expression turned from sunny to gloomy in an instant. "No, I hate pirates the most." "Yeah," Luffy didn't insist. Filling his stomach was more important now, so he sat down and continued eating. Nami came to the window and looked outside. Seeing Buggy's men still looking for her, she couldn't help but feel anxious in her heart. If this continues, he will definitely be unable to leave the town, and he must find a way to deal with the actions of Buggy and his gang against him. Looking back at Luffy who was still eating, he came up with a good idea. "What you just said is not impossible. As long as you do me a favor, I can consider it." "Really? I can promise anything. I want you to come with me to meet Buggy the clown." Shin and Zoro finally approached the island. Previously, Shin only saw a cannonball hit the big bird, and Luffy fell. Because of the obstruction of the house, he did not see what happened next. "I'll set off first, Zoro. I don't know what trouble that idiot captain will cause again." We could already see the port, so we were worried about Luffy's letter and decided to head straight through the water. "You can really run on the sea. What a convenient ability." Zoro couldn't help but sigh, and turn around to urge the trio of pirates to row faster. Buggy the clown's camp. A banquet is being held here to welcome new friends. Nami. Luffy was locked in a cage with a rope tied to his body. He stretched out his hand to eat a piece of meat, but he couldn't. In order to stop Buggy the clown from causing trouble for her, Nami and Luffy acted out a cliché plot about a partner betraying him. Nami betrayed the boss Luffy, kidnapped him to Buggy the clown's camp, and presented the stolen chart to show her loyalty. Ahahaha, kids, prepare special Buggy bombs. Perhaps to show his strength, Buggy arranged for his men to bring out a cannon and a red cannonball, put it into the barrel, and ignited it with the fuse. Boom! The dazzling fire and thunderous sound completely destroyed the houses along the road. It was not only powerful, but also had a farther range than ordinary artillery shells, and almost hit the coast. Sabasi. Do you think so, Nami? Buggy was very satisfied with the power of the cannonballs, and Nami was obviously frightened. After hearing Buggy's question, she hurriedly started to agree. Yes. Yes, he is indeed the boss. Then, in order to show your sincerity and determination to join us, use this shell to bury your former boss. The men turned the cannon, aimed at the cage containing Luffy, and reloaded a cannonball. The match was also handed to Nami's hands. People around him were urging him to fire, but Nami was confused. If you don't fire, you will definitely be killed, but if you do, what's the difference between you and those pirates? Nami's hands kept shaking, but Luffy, who was targeted by the cannonball, remained calm. What's wrong? Your hands are trembling. You're like this because you are not fully aware and want to challenge the pirates. What consciousness? The consciousness of killing people at will. No, it's the consciousness of risking one's own life. His expression was particularly serious, as if the target of the cannonball was not himself. The pirates who were watching couldn't stand it any longer. One of them came up and snatched the match from Nami's hand, preparing to light the fuse. What are you dawdling about, newcomer? Look, as long as you do this, it's fine. After all, Nami still couldn't bear to watch Luffy die, so she instinctively took out the 3-section stick hidden in her skirt, quickly put it together, and knocked out the pirate who was about to light it on fire. "What are you doing, Nami? Ah, I didn't pay attention, I'm sorry. Do you think apologizing can solve the problem? How dare you tease me and kill her?" Hiss. The fuse was still lit, and 3 figures rushed out from the crowd, ready to attack Nami. Seeing that the lead was getting shorter and shorter, Nami raised his stick to block the attack, dropped the weapon while the pirates were slashing downwards, and ran towards the cannon from the side with all his strength. He grabbed the lead with both hands and extinguished the flames with his body. Taking advantage of this opportunity, 3 pirates came behind Nami, and the swords they wielded were about to hit Nami. A shuriken tied with a steel wire instantly tied the 3 of them together. Fire-style dragon fire. The flames spread along the wire at an extremely fast speed, igniting the 3 pirates in the blink of an eye. Letter. Luffy immediately recognized the ninjutsu that Shin had performed before. "Hey, Luffy, you're not hurt?" A strong man wearing white short sleeves and a beard walked out from the edge of the crowd. Although his appearance was wrong, it was indeed Shin's voice. "Huh? Shin. Why have you aged so much? Idiot, this is transformation technique." When he came to the iron prison, he punched Luffy on the head through the iron bars and released the transformation technique. Pung. The bearded man turned into a 190 centimeters tall hedgehog-headed boy. He turned around and said hello to Nami. "Hey, Ms. Nami, this is the 4th time we have met. You were very brave just now." Formal introduction. Uchiha Nobu is a ninja. Nami couldn't understand how a big man suddenly turned into a teenager, so he nodded blankly. "You kid, are you demon fruit power? When did you sneak in? Don't treat my place as a place for chatting, you bastard." Buggy said to the letter sullenly, "I told you I'm a ninja, it's true. As for when they sneaked in, it was probably when Miss Nami arrived with my idiot captain. I originally wanted to take action directly, but who knew you actually held a banquet? I have to say, your barbecue is great. I haven't had a good meal in a few days. Thank you for the treat. Wherever you go, as long as you're satisfied. Damn you, don't treat this place like a restaurant. Hey, kids, get in here." Upon hearing Shin's answer, Buggy immediately rubbed his hands and put a smile on his face, but soon realized that he was not a waiter. With a wave of his hand, he directed the boys to rush towards the 3 of them. "Ah, you actually watched the captain starve and eat delicious food yourself. I really misjudged you. Now is the time to talk about this, think of a solution quickly." "Don't be nervous, I've already prepared." Ignoring the arrogant Luffy, Shin waved his hand to reassure Nami. Pung. 2 clouds of smoke appeared and quickly dissipated. However, a thin man wearing a turban and a bald man in shorts were missing on both sides of the crowd, but at the same time there was a man with exactly the same appearance. They formed the seal at the same time. Fire-style Great Fireball. 1 person on each side, 2 huge fireballs exploded in the crowd. The huge impact and blazing high temperature killed most of the pirates, leaving only a part in the center that escaped due to distance. The ninja technique, Shadow Clone, can create physical clones and use ninjutsu at the same time. The disadvantage is that it will dissipate after a certain amount of attacks. He walked leisurely to the cannon, turned it over, and pointed it at Buggy and his gang, while not forgetting to explain to Luffy and the other 2. Fire-style Howlong Fire. He spit out a dragon head made of flames from his mouth and aimed it at the sky. This was a signal to Zoro to prevent that idiot from finding his way. After releasing the ninja, he relit the fuse with the last of the small flame. Boom. Buggy's favorite product, the Buggy bullet, hit himself on the head this time. Then let's find a way to help my idiot captain get out of trouble. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 8. Everyone is here. 4 vs 4. I have the key here. Nami reached to his chest and took out a key from his 4th-dimensional pocket. He caught the key thrown by Nami, controlled his illicit desire to smell it, and thanked her without forgetting. It was a big help. During the banquet, I was so focused on eating that I forgot about it. What's interesting is that this iron cage has no door. It has an upper and lower structure. The upper and lower parts are relatively thick flat stones. There are dozens of iron rods between the 2 stones, densely arranged on the 4 edges of the stones, forming an iron cage, and the keyhole is on the stone block below. There was a click, but the cage did not open. Shin used his hands to lift up the rocks above and the iron rods, and separated them from the rocks below. Luffy, who was first picked up by the big bird and then imprisoned, was finally rescued. Aho, freedom! After untying the rope around his body, Luffy immediately raised his hands and began to celebrate. Command, Captain, run away or fight. Needless to say, of course I want to beat that bastard Buggy to death. Let me declare in advance, don't expect me to participate in the battle. I am just a weak woman without any force. However, if I steal the treasure, I can consider sharing some with you. Luffy moved his body and prepared to make a scene, while Nami immediately raised her hands to indicate that she would not participate in the fight. Speaking of which, where's Zoro? Ah, we should be there soon, if we don't get lost. Who do you think will get lost? Hedgehog-head. Shin and Luffy were discussing the Zoro issue, and when they turned around, they saw Zoro appearing not far away, heading here. In front of him was a white-haired uncle wearing homemade brown armor, holding a wooden spear and wearing glasses, and a gray puppy with a long face. Hey, Zoro, you're here. Who is this uncle? Luffy raised his right hand in greeting and also noticed the uncle and dog behind Zoro. Two people and one dog ran up to the three people and stopped in front of them. Zoro and the dog were fine. The uncle looked like he was about to die. He bent down at the waist, pressed his knee with one hand, and raised the other hand, holding wooden spear. It looked like he wanted to introduce himself, but he kept breathing heavily and couldn't speak. That uncle is from this town. He seems to be the mayor. That puppy is Shushu. We met in front of a pet food store. The uncle was still panting, so Zoro could only answer for him. However, Shin realized that something was wrong and quietly came behind Zoro. A pet food store. It's a straight street from the port to here. Why didn't I see any food store when I came here? Are you, Zoro, the kind of person who gets lost even if you walk in a straight line? You saw my dragon fire technique but couldn't find it, so you met an uncle and forced him to lead the way? Shin had a serious look on his face and said it in a volume that was just right enough for everyone present to hear. Zoro blushed at these words. Before he could think of an explanation, the recovered uncle answered for him. Don't say that. I came here myself. Because of Buggy's existence, the citizens have all hid in the back mountains. Only Shushu is unwilling to evacuate. I came to town today just to feed Shushu. Brother Zoro walked around the store 3 times. I didn't think he was a bad guy, so I stopped him and asked him what he did. After I learned that you were here, I wanted to come and save you, to be honest. Zoro's head was almost smoking. The uncle's words completely confirmed Zoro's attribute of being a road idiot. Luffy stepped forward and patted the uncle's back repeatedly, making a snapping sound. Uncle, you are very brave. Thank you. You are here. Do you want to fight with us? Of course, this town is a treasure for all our citizens. How can I just watch outsiders struggle while I hide myself? Ha 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 ha, you're right, uncle. A man must protect his cherished treasures with his own hands. I like you more and more. The smile on Luffy's face became brighter and brighter, and the pats on the back became faster and faster, almost annoying the uncle. The smoke and dust caused by the explosion gradually dissipated, and most of the pirates were knocked to the ground by a shell, but 3 people and 1 beast still survived. Buggy the clown, Kabaji the acrobatic swordsman, Mochi the animal tamer and his pet niche. Buggy the clown. Let's fight with me. Before the mayor could finish his declaration of war, Luffy punched him and knocked him out. What are you doing? Why did you hit him suddenly? In the way. Huh? Didn't you tell me just now about protecting your treasure with your own hands? Nami couldn't understand. Not long ago, he advised people to protect their cherished treasures with their own hands, but in the blink of an eye, he knocked people unconscious. Shin roughly understood that it was enough to have this belief. Since they were here, the uncle didn't have to go up and get beaten to death. But persuasion probably won't work, so I have to use some rougher methods. A shadow clone was separated to protect the mayor. Shin lowered his head and looked at Shushu. This puppy had the same courage as the mayor. Although the niche opposite him was dozens of times larger than his, it was still grinning and preparing to fight. Using my Buggy bullets against me really makes people angry. Buggy pointed at Luffy with a sullen face and said. Especially you, that brat wearing a straw hat. I get angry when I see your straw hat. Captain, you are not the only one who is angry. So many of your friends have been knocked down. The one with the 3 knives must be the legendary pirate hunter. Just leave him to me. Riding a unicycle with hair covering his left eye, wearing a blue and white plaid scarf and cape, the acrobatic swordsman, Kabaji. A lot of fur has been burned off my niche, and now I'm so angry that I want to bite something. Roar. His hair was in one piece, and he looked like he was wearing a plush hood, tight-fitting plush clothes, and animal claw shoes. The animal trainer was Mochi. It has a huge body, sharp teeth, sharp mouth, red pupils, and lavender mane wrapped around its neck. It is a fierce beast and niche. The enemy has declared war, and Shin's side cannot weaken its momentum. Luffy has already moved his body and can launch a fierce attack at any time. Zoro has also been on his way, and now he can finally fight. Although Shin had released a lot of ninjutsu before, his chakra was still sufficient, and he kept picking out his opponents with his eyes. As promised beforehand, I'm going to beat that guy with the red nose away with my own hands. Although I also want to test the sword with red nose, someone has designated me as the opponent, so I can't refuse. If the enemy is a swordsman, I can never lose. Hey, I also want to use that big red nose to test new moves. I really have no choice. Shushu and I will just deal with the animal trainer combination. Come on, stop Red Nose and the others. If we find the treasure, we will share it equally. One after another red noses came into my ears, and I heard words that my subordinates would never dare to mention 4 times at once. You. Who are you calling Red Nose? Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 9 Shin's Battle. Ninjutsu Experiment Jin Mi Ting La Tien Shang Shiju Dian Rakuten Travel HK. 510 Hong Kong dollars Rakuten Travel. Ri Ben Xing Ne Ling Xian Wang Sheng Lu Xing Shi. The 3 of them found their opponents and rushed straight away. Nami saw the opportunity and quietly slipped behind, preparing to visit Buggy's treasure room. Shin hugged the dog and walked to the animal trainers Mochi and Li Ji. He comforted Shushu who was about to rush forward with a grin on his face. Hello, Uchiha Nobu, You are a ninja. Who wants to say hello to you, you bastard? Li Ji, let's go. Shin wanted to be polite first and then attack, but Moki directly launched an attack on Li Ji. His huge body jumped up and fell from the sky to hit Shin. He jumped back to avoid the attack, holding the dog with one hand and throwing out the shuriken with the other hand. Because he still wanted to test his abilities, Nobu did not go all out and directly used powerful ninjutsu to kill the opponent. The shuriken thrown with one hand does not use much force, and the aim is not critical. Someone may be accidentally injured here, and one needs to lure one person and one beast to a place where there are no people. Hey, are you just going to run away? Seeing his opponent jumping left and right to avoid attacks, and throwing a few shurikens at Li Ji from time to time, Mochi couldn't stand it anymore. Where's the great fireball I just used? Are you looking down on me, you bastard? No, oh, my energy is exhausted and I can't use it. While comforting the Shu in his arms, he retreated and occasionally turned back to attack to attract the target's hatred. The distance is almost there. This is the junction point between Buggy's camp and the town. Fighting in the town will cause considerable damage. As long as he has some spare strength, Shin is still a good boy who cares about public property. Putting down Shu, moving his body a little, Shin opened the Sharingan. The black pupil turned red, with a small black dot inside the pupil, a black circle surrounding it, and a holeless Magatama floating on the circle. Although it's just a single Magatama, I still feel that turning on Sharingan will have a bonus to illusions. Shan Magatama only has insight ability, which is the enhancement of dynamic vision, which can help the user better observe the enemy's movements and gain insight into its attack intentions. You finally stopped running away, kid. The man and beast who had been hanging at the back finally came over. There were still a lot of bleeding wounds on Liki's torso, all of which were made by shurikens. Although it didn't kill him, it still made him very annoyed. This is probably your burial place. Forget about the big lion, the one wearing the hood. Have you thought about what to write on your epitaph? You'd better think about how to survive Li Ji's mouth. Come on, Li Ji. Roar. After hearing the order, Li Ji did not rush forward. Instead, he kept shaking his body, trying to throw Mochi off. What are you doing, Liki? Mochi panicked a little, grabbed his mane tightly, and lay on top of Li Ji to prevent himself from being thrown off. As a beast tamer, most of his combat power comes from the beasts under his command. Now that the niche is in the wrong state, he no longer has the leisure or ability to deal with Shin. He raised his head to see if his opponent would take the opportunity to attack, but found that the place where Shin was standing was empty, and even the gray puppy was missing. Li Ji used all four legs to jump high into the air. He couldn't turn 180 degrees in the air, but he could still turn 90 degrees. His whole body turned sideways and hit the ground hard, bringing him with it. The impact force violently threw Mochi out. He didn't have time to recover after falling to the ground, because Laki had already launched a fierce attack on him. Magical Naraku meets technique, so that's what it is. Shin touched his chin and said in a satisfied tone. This technique can make the opponent see a scene that triggers fear in his heart. It seems that what Mochi fears most is niche rebellion. In fact, Shin stayed on the same spot and did not move. He had used illusions long before the enemy caught up with him. He had only used ninjutsu in previous battles, and this was his first time trying genjutsu, and it seemed to work well. Mochi was still dodging the attacks from the illusion, and Li Ji was no better, attacking the empty surroundings. Under his feet, Shu was constantly biting his four legs. Illusion. Kasumi's servant technique, combined with Shushu's attack, is very effective in making the fake appear real. Turning his head to look at Li Ji's position, the situation here was also caused by Shin Yisho. Technique. The servant of Kasumi will make the person who is recruited see a black phantom of human form, and at the same time, the phantom will continue to split and attack. Although the illusion will not cause physical damage, it will be combined with Shu's eyes attack, coupled with Li Ji's low IQ. Enough to completely trap this beast in the illusion. After finishing the genjutsu experiment, Shinya is ready to start the next ninjutsu experiment. In addition to fire style, he also masters some other ninjutsu. Jumping to niche, first of all, healing jutsu. This is a medical ninjutsu recorded on a ninjutsu scroll. Shin only found this medical ninjutsu. He had no medical knowledge. He could only use this technique to treat some simple injuries. His palm was surrounded by a green ball of light, and he used a kunai to cut a gash on Liki's back. Then he placed his palm covered with green light on top of the wound. With the surge of chakra, the wound began to heal slowly, and it was completely recovered after a while. If it weren't for the remaining blood, it would not be visible at all. Yoshi, that's enough. Let's start the next experiment. Shin nodded with satisfaction. Get off Liki's back and take Shu away from its feet. The next thing to experiment with is the offensive ninjutsu, which may accidentally injure Shu. Wind-style vacuum sphere. Gather the chakra into your mouth, take a deep breath, and when you exhale, shoot out the chakra like a bullet, aiming at Li Ji, piercing through Li Ji without mercy, leaving a transparent hole in Li Ji's body. Lightning style pseudo-dark. After completing the seal, he stretched out his hands, and the gathered thunder and lightning shot out from his hands like several sharp spears, stabbing Li Ji's body straight. The paralysis caused by the thunder and lightning finally made him wake up, but it won't have a chance to fight back. Earth-style Yamikanuma. Patting the ground with both hands, chakra came to Liji's feet through the conduction of the ground. The hard ground turned into a swamp, and Liji's 4 feet sank deeply into it. He struggled but only got deeper and deeper. As the chakra continues to be released, the depth of the swamp continues to spread downwards until it swallows the niche entirely. That's enough. There's only one weirdo in a hood. He hasn't come out of the illusion yet, so just leave him alone. After finishing the release of chakra, he stood up and clapped his hands. Shin hugged Shu. Mochi was still fighting wits with the illusion, and Shin didn't intend to exert any more effort. The battle here is over. Let's see the result of the battle between Luffy and Zoro. He took a step and ran towards Zoro. That green algae-headed road idiot won't be able to find the enemy's position during the battle, right? Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 10 Buggy's past Da Ban Liber Ju Dian Rakuten Travel HK. 515 Hong Kong dollars Rakuten Travel. Ri Ben Xing Ne Ling Xian Wang Shang Lu Xing Shi. Yo, isn't this a green algae head? I haven't seen you for a while. It's so annoying. It's so noisy to hedgehog. It took you so long to be forced into a hard fight by that third-rate thing, right? Huh? I did that to verify the illusion. Do you know illusion? You are an idiot with only muscles in your mind? Okay, I understand. I'm a low-level ninja who needs the help of a puppy to fight with me. When Shin and Shu arrived, Zoro had just finished dealing with his opponent and was sitting on the roadside to rest. However, there were many burn marks and small wounds on his body, and his whole body looked disgraced. Not missing this good opportunity, Shin taunted him on the spot, and Zoro was not to be outdone, and the two faced off tit for tat. Shu ignored them and ran to the unconscious Kabaji to whip his body. Why are you in such a mess? This doesn't look like a famous pirate hunter. Is that swordsman very strong? After the daily quarrel, Shin also asked about the business. After all, he still recognized Zoro's strength. He had watched Zoro's battle through the window earlier when he was searching for treasure at Marine Base. Shin couldn't help but worry about Luffy. If the swordsman was not bad, as his captain, the clown Buggy should be even stronger. He's just a juggler who can use some circus tricks. He can't be called a swordsman. So you underestimate the enemy? Oh, you are indeed a pirate hunter with a bright mind? Shut up. You damn Uchiha. Zoro stood up, pointed his knife at Shin, and was about to start another battle. Okay, stop making trouble. Let me help you and take off your clothes. Huh? Zoro looked weird. Does a ninja refer to a person with a special quirk? Shin also noticed his gaze, went up and punched him, and then forcibly took off his shirt. Put your damn thoughts away and thank me. If I didn't need to experiment with medical ninjutsu, I wouldn't waste chakra on you. Zoro has a lot of small wounds on his body, none of which are serious, but the accumulation will bring some negative status to people. Wound infection, excessive blood loss, etc., and taking off the shirt is to avoid accidents during treatment. First, I made some water with chakra, washed the dusty Zoro, and turned it into a fresh green algae head. The palm of his hand raised a green light, healing jutsu, aimed at the small wounds, and while treating them, Shin's mouth did not stop. Don't you know how to say thank you? The famous pirate hunter is really rude. Thank you, green light immortal. Huh? The green light in Shin's hand dissipated, and he aimed at an untreated wound and slapped it hard. What are you doing? You green pod bastard. Shut up, you idiot with grass growing on your head. Wow, that's amazing. There are so many. Nami finally found where Buggy kept his treasure. As expected of the famous immortal Buggy, the pile of treasures is half as tall as a man. The golden light reflected Nami's excitement, and she couldn't help but bend down. He picked up a gold crown inlaid with gems and put it on his head to celebrate that he was one step closer to his goal of 100 million belly. When Nami was happy, a sharp knife stretched out from the darkness and came to her neck. Since it is a place where treasures are stored, how could there be no one to guard it? The visitor was an alcoholic. When Nami came here, she saw him drunk and asleep. Maybe Nami celebrated too loudly, but he actually woke up now. The drunkard looked at the empty bottle in his hand and said with a loud mouth. What are you going to do to our treasure? It feels so uncomfortable, my chest suddenly hurts. Nami had an idea instantly and pretended to cover her chest, but then deliberately let go a little. The guard was also an old pervert, and his eyes kept looking at the position Nami was covering. Just seeing a little ravine made him couldn't help but enter the fantasy time. The story that has to be told between the female thief and the pirate, the stupid thief and the guard Uncle Chin. While the drunkard was distracted, Nami took out a 3-section stick from his 4th-dimensional pocket. They quickly put it together and knocked the drunkard unconscious. At the same time, Nami was also attracted to a bunch of keys around the drunkard's neck, with a special golden key on it. He glanced around and found a locked treasure chest. With a click, the golden key opened the treasure chest, and what was stored inside was the Grand Line navigation chart. Great, finally found it. Nami looked excited. Compared to the treasures placed there, the value of the sea chart was obviously greater. Putting all the treasures and navigation charts into a large package, the weak woman Nami directly picked it up. I may not be able to carry 50 pounds of cement, but I can carry 50 pounds of treasure and run away. I quietly came outside and saw the fight between Luffy and Buggy. You stretch your arms, I split my arms, you stretch your neck, I split my arms. This fighting method opened Nami's eyes. Buggy's split palm held 3 daggers between his fingers and struck Luffy's straw hat 3 times. Luffy suddenly became furious and punched Buggy in the stomach. And Buggy also said that the reason why he became angry when he saw Luffy was precisely because of Luffy's straw hat. Once, he and Shanks were interns in a pirate group, and Buggy was passionate about finding treasures. Because some treasures are sunk at the bottom of the sea, so in order to find these treasures, his water skills are very good. But because of Shanks, Buggy ate chop fruit and completely broke up with the treasure under the sea. And the Shanks who ruined his life happened to often wear a straw hat. The two of them are kindred spirits. Luffy's guide was Shanks, and he inherited this straw hat from him. After hearing the story, Nami picked up the package again and prepared to sneak to the port quietly, but Buggy spotted him before he could go far. Regardless of Luffy in front of him, he split his upper body directly and rushed towards Nami. What are you going to do to my treasure? Ah. Human potential is indeed unlimited. Nami hugged the package and started running wildly. Buggy's upper body floated behind and chased after her. But he forgot about Luffy and his lower body that was left there, where there was a more precious treasure. Aha! Buggy stopped instantly, his mouth wide open with a look of pain on his face, as if he had lost something important. Looking back, Luffy showed no martial ethics and hit Buggy's baby with a kick. However, his enthusiasm for treasure should not be underestimated. He activated the fruit's ability to split himself into more than a dozen parts except for his head and feet. The split body quickly flew away from Luffy's eyes and came to the position of Buggy's head, leaving only a pair of feet walking step by step. He didn't choose a combination, and let his limbs fly around his head. He held the dagger in both hands and launched another round of pursuit of Nami. Luffy, on the other hand, had already focused on Buggy's feet, took off his shoes, tickled him, scratched his skin, and finally punched him hard. Buggy finally couldn't stand it anymore and turned around and shouted at Luffy. Stop it. You are the one who should stop. When Buggy turned around, Nami threw the package up and hit him on the head. But the floating hands blocked the blow, grabbed the package, and started fighting with Nami. Luffy seized the opportunity, rushed over, kicked Buggy in the head with his slippers, and kicked the head and package away. The package broke, the treasures were scattered on the ground, and Buggy's limbs fell to the ground because he lost control. Luffy and Nami thought the matter was over, and became concerned about the scattered treasures in the navigation charts. But Buggy's head floated up again, with an unknown structure and a cloak attached to it. Don't think it's over like this, Buggy said harsh words. Luffy also stood ready, and only Nami left quietly. You actually made me like this, I will never let you off lightly. Fall apart and assemble. Ads by Bidgear Chapter 11. The end of the battle and the joining of Nami. Dongji Stay Fu Gang Tien Xian Rakuten Travel HK. 501 Hong Kong dollars Rakuten Travel. Ri Ben Xing Ne Ling Xian Wang Sheng Lu Xing Shi. Ha! Buggy, who only had his hands, feet and head, opened his mouth wide and was suddenly embarrassed. He obviously wanted to summon all the bodies in the assembly, so why did he become a dwarf now? Is this what you're looking for? Nami smiled evilly, holding a piece of rope in his hand, and stepping on a bundle of things that were tied up and still squirming under his feet. Ah, my body. Ha 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 ha, you are indeed a thief. Luffy laughed and praised Nami, stretching his hands back to accumulate strength. Rubber bazooka. The arms attacked Buggy at rocket-like speeds, leaving only his hands, feet and head. He was at most 30 centimeters tall and had no ability to resist. He shouted and was knocked to the horizon. At this point, the Straw Hats vs Buggy Pirates came to an end with the Straw Hats' victory. Ah, it's finally over. After winning the battle, Luffy celebrated, but quickly put away his happy expression and silently picked up the straw hat with 3 knife marks on the ground. Nami knew the importance of the straw hat to Luffy, and looked at Luffy's gloomy face and couldn't help but feel a little distressed. It's getting ragged. Luffy put on his straw hat again, forced a smile, and pretended to be nonchalant. It doesn't matter, I can still wear it anyway. Buggy was blasted into the sky by me, and I breathed a sigh of relief. Shin healed Zoro's minor wounds, and the two of them rushed over together. Hey, Luffy. Don't just look at people and not the road. I really admire you. Isn't this a straight line? How did you go astray? When the two came to Luffy, Luffy looked at the letter with tears in his eyes, holding the straw hat he took off. Shin, my straw hat. Can this be repaired with ninjutsu? Shin also knows the significance of the straw hat to Luffy, but this is indeed not something that ninjutsu can do. Sorry, Luffy. How about we wait until the next town and find a tailor? Oh, Nami sighed. Luffy, who just said it didn't matter, immediately broke the news when he saw the letter. Don't worry, I'll fix it for you. Really, you're such a good person, Nami. Okay, let go of my hand first. Nami took out the needle and thread, took the straw hat, walked aside and began to play with needlework. Because Luffy didn't have any wounds on his body and didn't need to take off his clothes. Credit Chakra created a water balloon as tall as a person and hit Luffy from top to bottom. Then a small great fireball was released to dry it, and in the blink of an eye Luffy was new again. Of course, she didn't forget Nami. She raised a small water balloon and looked at Nami. Nami, do you need it? No, I'd rather take a hot bath than this. Here, fixed. Aw, thank you so much Nami, then let's discuss the treasure. Nami instantly put on a Philistine smile and pointed at the scattered treasures. In this incident, Nami was responsible for stealing, and Shin and the other two were responsible for stopping it. Nami had also said before that he was prepared to split the stakes equally. Luffy and Zoro were not very interested in the treasure, so they squatted aside and played with each other. Only Shin came to Nami's side, squatted down and began to sort out the treasures with her. Wait a minute, Miss Nami, the workmanship of this gold crown is more valuable. If you take it away, we will get 3 more gold coins. Wow, the color and size of that gemstone make it look more valuable than the same weight of gold. The dagger in your hand looks very worn out at first glance, just consider it as a gift for me. This ring, that bracelet, whoa, what a beautiful wine glass. Shin kept chattering on the side, and put a lot of things on himself in a smooth manner. When Nami heard a few hashes popping up on her forehead, she couldn't help but turn into a shark face and punch Shin's head. What about your reliability and gentleness just now? Don't be too pushy. Shin, who fell to the ground, tremblingly raised his right hand covered with rings. This is a reasonable allocation. In the end, the treasure was divided into 2 packages of about the same size, and the jewelry on Shin's body was also stripped off. After finishing, Nami stood up, wiped the non-existent sweat on his forehead, took out a drawing and handed it to the letter. Here, what your captain has always wanted. What's this? Nautical chart of the Grand Line. Really, Luffy? Shin took the chart and reached out to summon his funny captain. Grand Line's nautical chart. Thank you soon, Miss Nami. Great, does this mean you have become our partner? Didn't I say that I don't want to be a pirate's partner? As he said this, Nami looked at Luffy who was grinning in front of him. Standing behind Luffy was the powerful but somewhat unreliable Shin, and further away, Zoro, who was still teasing the dog and seemed to be the most reliable at the moment. I couldn't help but feel that it would be good to be partners with this group of people. I gave Luffy a high five with his right hand and changed the topic. It seems like it would be quite profitable to go with you. But let's agree first, we are just cooperating. Ah-ho, there is a navigator. Are you from out of town? A group of people came with various weapons and saw Luffy and others coming up to ask about the situation. We turned out to be residents here. Because the mayor has not come back today and the sound of cannons is louder than usual, we came to check the situation. Are the pirates here having an internal fight? Mayor. Only then did everyone discover the mayor's uncle who had been lying on the ground. Mayor, what's wrong with you? Mayor, wake up. Sorry, I hit that old man. Luffy told the truth with an innocent face, completely unaware of the darkened expressions of the residents. So you are also pirates? It's a pirate. You idiot, why did you say it? Nami's sharp teeth pulled at the corners of Luffy's mouth. Luffy had an innocent expression on his face. I'm telling the truth. Get ready to run away, these people's eyes are redder than mine. Shin picked up the package containing the treasure with one hand in each hand, jumped to the roof, and said to the 3 people below. That roadie over there, you can find the port. You're the one, don't slip and fall from the roof. Everyone, start running away. By the time everyone packed their luggage and prepared to sail, it was already dusk. Nami was on the boat with the buggy flag that he had deceived earlier. Shin threw a package full of food onto Nami's boat. After all, the original boat for the 3 of them had no place to store supplies. Just after being chased by the citizens, Shu came up from behind and took a shortcut to help them stop the crowd. Only then did Shin have time to loot the food and water that had not been taken away in the town. Of course, he paid for it. The supplies have been replenished. This is the last step. Give the order, Captain. Yoshi, let's set sail. 2 boats, one large and one small, sailed forward under the setting sun. At the port, the mayor's uncle rushed over in a hurry. He started panting again, ignoring the burning sensation in his chest and trachea, and waved vigorously to say goodbye to everyone. I'm sorry for the behavior of the citizens, I'm sorry, I will always remember your kindness. Luffy also jumped up and down at the stern and waved. Don't take it to heart, just relax, old man. The mayor's uncle watched his benefactors go away with tears of emotion. He turned around and found a package left at the edge of the port. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 12 Daily Life on board Jin Meeting La Tien Shang Shiju Dian Rakuten Travel HK. 510 Hong Kong dollars Rakuten Travel. Ri Ben Xing Ne Ling Xian Wang Sheng Lu Xing Shi. What did you say? Nami on the ship was abusing a poor and helpless man, strangling Shin's neck. What do you mean by leaving a bag of treasure there? Because we need money to rebuild. The town, we are going to die, Nami. That's 5 million Baileys, you should die to apologize, you idiot. Even though he said this, Nami still let go of his hand, sparing Shin's life. You can turn back by yourself if you want. How dare you go back in this situation, you idiot. Nami was obviously still regretting the loss of 5 million, but he didn't really want to turn back and get it back. He just punched Nobu in the head again. Really, I'm going to rest. After all, why doesn't your ship even have a sail? Well, that was taken away by the big bird. Shin answered Nami's question with a sure look on his face. No matter what, take the compass and make sure the ship is heading in the right direction. Nami went back to the cabin to rest, took the compass, and Shin came to the bow of the boat. Because the boat had no power, it could only be pulled by Nami's boat and could not see the situation ahead. Luffy and Zoro were still on the boat. Zoro was resting with his eyes closed. Luffy was fooled by the small fishing pole that Shin took out and was fishing. The two ships moved forward slowly and firmly, and time passed slowly in the process. The sun set below the sea level and it was already night. Hey, it's time to eat. Oh, Luffy, who had already dozed off and almost fell into the sea, suddenly regained his energy. He stretched out his arms to wrap around Zoro, who was still awake, and jumped to Nami's boat. Boom! The green algae head that had not yet woken up hit the deck heavily and was forced to turn on the phone. You want to kill me, you bastard Luffy? Sorry, Zoro. Show me some sincerity. What do you mean by your flat tone? Wado Yimon was unsheathed and placed on Luffy's neck. Okay, stop making trouble, come and help hold the pot and skewer the meat. Shin walked out of the cabin, holding a package in his hands. Nami behind him was holding a large pot, a barbecue grill and some seasonings. The expression is a little confused. What's the use of this pot and grill? There's no kitchen on the ship and the deck is made of wood? I have an idea. Shin smiled mysteriously and kicked Luffy, who was stealing food. Earth style wall. Some soil was spit out from the mouth and fell on the deck. With the release of chakra, the soil instantly rose and controlled the size, forming a 2 meters 1.5 meters stone wall with a thickness of 10 centimeters. Pushing the stone wall down to the ground, Shin showed a satisfied smile. Luffy and the other three looked at him with strange expressions. After all, they spit out dirt from their mouths. It turns out that soil can also be eaten. Is it delicious? Evolving from a hedgehog to a marmot is completely different from the ninja I imagined. So this lump can be considered your saliva, right? This is ninjutsu. Ninjutsu. That's not saliva, it's soil formed by chakra. A bunch of ungrateful guys. In the anime, when third generation faced off against Orochimaru, he used the earth flow wall to spit out dirt from his mouth. After furling the sails and lowering the anchor, 4 young people sat around an earthen platform and held a barbecue under the moonlight. The fuel is wood specially collected by Shin, which was previously placed in the cabin, and the methods of skewering the meat are different. Zoro and Nami use normal iron skewers and normal skewers for barbecue. Credit goes to Kanai, who directly skewered a large piece of meat and put it on the grill. Luffy was much more brutal. He asked Shin for a wire and tied several pieces of meat together to make a stick. Shin, it's baking too slowly, please help me. Fire style dragonfire. Hey Luffy, don't steal my roast you bastard. Hey, Zoro, let's compare our drinking abilities. How about 100,000 belly? Ah, so spicy. You are an idiot. How can you sprinkle a can with chili powder? Drink this water balloon. This wine tastes good. It's rare for the hedgehog to do a good thing. Don't ignore me. Doesn't a famous pirate hunter even dare to accept a competition of 100,000 belly? By the time everyone had eaten and drank enough, it was already close to midnight, the moon was high in the sky, and the stone platform was in a mess, with empty wine bottles and drinks, spice jars and barbecue sticks. Because a sea monster appeared in the middle and wanted to attack, everyone had to eat an extra meal. The fuel they brought was not enough, so Shin directly removed the mast of the boat and burned it. Luffy had already snored and fell asleep. Zoro was still very energetic after taking a nap before eating, and Nami had a blush on her face but was still awake. Ah, it's really troublesome. The ingredients I brought were all eaten up at once, and the iron pot wasn't even used. Shin looked at the empty package with a headache. He had planned to cook a fruit and vegetable porridge in an iron pot, but who knew that Luffy would even roast apples and carrots to eat? Zoro, are you keeping vigil tonight? Give it to me. I cleaned up the debris on the ground, wrapped the garbage in soil balls, and threw it into the sea. I also threw the soil platform out. I used water style to clean the deck. Then I took Luffy to the boat and covered him with a blanket. Shin also planned to tonight sleeping in a boat. Hey, Shin. Suddenly, he heard Nami's voice calling him, and he had no choice but to return to the deck, where he saw Nami leaning on the edge of the ship and looking at him. I want to take a shower. What? It's time for a hot bath. Your fire style can be used to boil water, right? We have to make water and boil water. Let me go. The cattle plowing the fields also need to rest. Ah, Nobu-sama, you are such a ruthless ninja, you can't bear to watch a young girl go to bed smelling drunk and dirty. In the end, Shin could not escape Nami's coquettishness and eccentricity. He burned 3 buckets of hot water and built a small stone house at the stern of the ship using earth style. The door was a simple door curtain made of steel wire plus senbon plus blanket. Finally, he used fire style and kunai to transform the iron pot into a simple ladle. After doing all this, Nobu looked drained. He stretched and looked at Zoro, who was still at his post at the bow of the ship. Don't fall asleep, green algae head. If you're really sleepy, you can wake me up to change the guard. You talk a lot. You'd better go to bed quickly and treat your pink eye. Back on the boat again, Luffy snored loudly and took another blanket and lay down on it. In front of you is a clear starry night sky with a bright moon hanging high in the sky. If you turn your field of view slightly, you can see Zoro's figure keeping watch. Luffy's snoring could be heard in his ears, and if he listened carefully, he could hear the sound of Nami pouring water on himself with a water ladle. I still can't recall the memories of the past 3 years. But it's not bad to just stay with them like this. Shin didn't know if he had any relatives in this world, but the Straw Hats now made him feel like home. Good night. Ads by Bidgear Chapter 13 New Islands and Lying Noses. Sanjing Hua Yuan Ju Dian Ming Gu Wu Pu Mi Rakuten Travel HK, 505 Hong Kong dollars Rakuten Travel. Ri Ben Xing Ne Ling Xian Wang Sheng Lu Xing Shi. What? No more food? Before he woke up, Shin heard Luffy yelling. He stood up, put away the blanket, jumped on the deck, and punched Luffy. You obviously insisted on eating it yesterday, so why were you surprised in the end? Thinking back to the scene last night, I had to use fire style to grill Luffy, and I had to make water to rinse Luffy's mouth, who didn't know how to add seasonings. After fighting the sea monster, I had to bake Luffy. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became, and he punched Luffy in the head again. Idiot Captain. What are you doing? You've already punched me. Luffy reluctantly straightened his crooked head. Nami also walked out of the cabin at this time. The small stone hut yesterday was only used for bathing, so naturally it was impossible to sleep in it. Holding the chart in one hand, he walked up to the two of them. I looked at the chart near here last night. There is a small island in the northwest. The record says there is a village on it. We can go there to replenish supplies. Okay. Luffy was still a little unhappy because he didn't have anything to eat, but he could only accept this reality. Zoro, who was keeping watch last night, was resting on the edge of the boat. When he saw that everyone was here, he raised his head and asked. What's our next move? Luffy. Needless to say, we also have a navigation chart. Of course we will go straight to the Grand Line. Huh? This ship is still flying the Buggy flag. The mast of our ship was dismantled yesterday. Although he didn't care about these things, a ship without masts was too crude. As pirates, we should have a pirate ship of our own, right? That's right, of course you have to have your own pirate ship. Hearing this, Luffy also echoed loudly, then turned to look at the stretched letter. Do you believe that ninjas can build ships? Can they use ninjutsu to create such a big ship? Luffy stretched out his hand and made an outline of a boat that was several times larger than the current one. He looked at the letter expectantly. Shin's face was full of helplessness. Luffy regarded ninja as synonymous with omnipotence. I can't build, and ninjutsu doesn't have the function of building a ship. Don't treat me as a wish-making machine, you bastard. Let's see if there is a shipbuilder on the next island. I've had enough of living in a snail's nest. Okay, how long, Nami? It will probably take half a day if nothing else happens. Nami looked at the chart, observed the wind strength and answered Luffy's question. So hungry, on the island that everyone is about to go to, there is a village called Zailuobu Village. Today is another sunny day and the village is quiet and peaceful, but the arrival of a man breaks the atmosphere. Everyone, it's not good, the pirates are attacking. Everyone, run for your lives quickly. The young man shouted at the top of his lungs to inform the villagers of the pirate attack. Strangely, no one opened the door to escape. He has curly hair, a brown headscarf, and brown overalls. He was carrying a brown tool bag slung across his body. Of course, the most eye-catching thing was his long nose. The young man ran all the way to the center of the village, bent down and gasped for air. What pirate? I lied to you, ha ha ha. The boy suddenly raised his hands and started laughing. As for the pirate attack, it was just a lie told by the boy. Dwang, an iron pan hit the boy on the back of the head. The originally silent villagers walked out of their rooms one by one, holding tools such as brooms and pans in their hands. I must teach you a lesson today, you liar. Don't try to hide this time, Usopp. Stop and don't move. It seems that this is not the first time Usopp has deceived people, and the villagers are used to it. Usopp's face was full of excitement. Come on, this is it. When the crowd approached, Usopp turned around and ran away, laughing and taunting back. Ha ha ha, come on, come and catch me. After the chasing villagers returned without success, Usopp came to the tree to bask in the sun, and said leisurely. I did another good thing today, brings a little excitement to this boring village. During his free time enjoying the quiet time, two children ran under the tree, holding high their homemade small wooden swords. Captain Usopp, the Usopp pirates are here to report. It's you, Green Pepper 2, Carrot 2. Why are there only two of you? Where's Onion 2? Usopp jumped down from the tree and asked as he looked at his team with one less person in front of him. No. The pirates are coming. Before Green Pepperhead and Carrot Head could answer Usopp's question, Onion Head yelled and ran over. There is a ship with a skull and crossbones coming from North Blue. Really? Usopp clearly didn't believe it. Onion 2 replied with an affirmative look. It's true. It seems to be the flag of the Buggy pirates. Cold sweat broke out on Usopp's face, and he turned around and started running towards the village. Time for snacks. Liar. Actually, I have a disease that will kill me if I don't eat snacks. You can already see the coastline. Zoro looked at the bow of the ship and turned back to say to a few people. Ah, I want to eat meat. Luffy looked excited and came to the bow of the boat, ready to jump into the sea. Shin punched him from behind. Save me some trouble, idiot captain. Then let's check the situation first. Green algae head, watch out for our idiot captain. I know, your spiky-headed ability is really convenient. Shin jumped off the boat, gathered the chakra under his feet, and prepared to go to the island to check the situation. Two shadow clones separated and ran around the island, one on the left and one on the right. After the shadow clone completed its mission and disappeared, Shinya roughly learned the topography of the island. The terrain of the entire island is relatively high. Only the beach part is level with the sea. The rest of the island is covered by high cliffs. There are only 2 ramps to enter the depths of the island. Shin was about to investigate through the ramp, but suddenly he noticed someone peering at him. A series of bullet attacks were fired at his feet, but Shin jumped back to dodge them all. Pirate flags are raised on both sides of the cliff, which is also very distinctive. The mouth and nose of the skull look like they're turned upside down. Number. Ah ha 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 ha. I am the captain of the pirate group that leads this village, Usopp. Usopp stood under a tree with a pirate flag next to him, looking down at the letter. Hey, will an enemy appear so soon? Meet, meet, meet. The boat finally arrived. Zoro jumped off. After all, he was most interested in fighting. Luffy followed closely and shouted that he wanted to eat meat. Nami finally got off the boat slowly, still holding a chart in his hand, which recorded that there should be a village on this island. The 3 of them also saw Shin and Usopp. Shin looked relaxed. He had just seen that the so-called bullets were just lead bullets. Through Sharingan, they also saw that there were only 3 little devils in the grass on the cliff. Usopp had a nervous look on his face. He might have seen 3 more enemies, and his whole body was shaking, but he still managed to hold on and shouted. Don't move forward. My 80 million subordinates will not allow you to act arrogantly. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 14 The Story of Usopp and Kaya. It's amazing. There are actually 80 million people. Luffy looked surprised. He didn't expect that Usopp had as many as 80 million people. Nami behind him sighed helplessly. Is that a lie? Damn it, I was found out. Look, he himself said he was found out. What, it's actually a lie. The short conversation revealed the intelligence of the 3 people. Usopp is still talking harshly. Although there are not as many as 80 million, I still have excellent subordinates. After speaking, he pointed to the side, and the flags in the bushes began to flutter up and down, but only 6 flags moved. Shin took a step forward, a little speechless. Sharingan could see from the gap that there were only 3 little devils inside, each holding 2 flagpoles and waving. The 3 brats inside, stop pretending, they've been exposed. Ah, you have been seen through, run away. The 3 imps immediately dropped the flag and Usopp and ran away without looking back. Usopp reached out and wanted to save his only companion. You guys, don't abandon me. Shin walked forward and picked up the lead bullets on the ground. It was obvious that such bullets could not be fired from a gun. Is the weapon a slingshot? It's really rare. Although he was alone, Usopp did not choose to leave. His legs were shaking. He took out his slingshot, loaded it with lead bullets, and aimed at several people. Don't underestimate me. Your partner must have seen it just now. My slingshot is more powerful than an ordinary pistol. Since you have drawn your gun, you have to risk your life. Luffy's style changed drastically. He walked forward, lowered his straw hat, the shadow covered one eye, and said in a deep voice. I mean, this thing is not a toy to scare people. Zoro instantly understood what Luffy meant, used his thumb to push the knife at his waist out of the scabbard, and said with a fierce expression. The person standing in front of you is a real pirate. Shin took out a kunai and pointed it at Usopp. Sharingan stared at him. Now that we have taken action, we must have realized that we should die. Looking at the 3 villains in front of him, the imposing Luffy with a straw hat on his head, and the fierce Zoro with 3 swords on his waist, held up a kunai with red eyes, as if they were about to attack at any time. Usopp still didn't dare to take action after all, and collapsed on the ground, with tears still in the corners of his eyes. As expected of a real pirate, his words and momentum are extraordinary. Amazing. The 3 real pirates below looked at each other and suddenly laughed. It's just something you learn now and sell now. I followed what my respected pirate Shanks said. You said Shanks, do you know the legendary pirate Shanks? Usopp was very surprised. He didn't expect Luffy to know the legendary Shanks. Luffy put on a smile, and he recognized Usopp's identity at a glance. Your father is Usopp, right? Usopp was so shocked that his whole head stuck out. Unsteady, he slid down and fell in front of the 4 people. Usopp is indeed my father's name, but how do you know? I see, I didn't expect my dad to be on Shanks' ship. You look exactly like him, so I recognized him at first sight. In a small restaurant in the village, 5 people sat around a table and ate the food Usopp invited. At the same time, I also learned about the origin of Luffy and Usopp. Luffy once heard Usopp mention that he had a child the same age as Luffy, and Usopp looked very similar. Luffy recognized Usopp as his son at a glance. Is it true? My dad is actually on a powerful ship? Usopp is very happy, not only because his father is so awesome, but also because he looks very similar to his father. After having a good meal and wine, Shin asked about the business. Usopp, do you know anyone on this island who can build ships? Usopp thought carefully. I've never heard of anyone who can build a boat. After all, we're just a small village here. Is there anyone on the island who has channels to buy a boat? No, I told you that our place is just a small village. Usopp looked a little flustered. Where Zoro is sitting, he can see a large villa through the window. There is a big villa on the hill. Seeing Usopp's expression change, Nami felt that something was wrong, and immediately held hands with each other and said to Usopp. Hey, are you Usopp's friend? Can you please help me with some money? Not there, Usopp suddenly shouted, then turned to look away, and told a lie that could be seen through at a glance. It suddenly occurred to me that I still have something to do. Carrying his satchel, he ran out of the hotel in a panic. After everyone had eaten and drank, 3 children rushed into the hotel with small wooden swords. Where did you take Captain Usopp? Luffy drank a drink and patted his round belly. Ah, this meat is so delicious. The 3 little ghosts thought Usopp had been eaten, so they hugged each other in fear. Nami couldn't help laughing when she looked at these 3 cute little ghosts. Shin and Zoro looked at each other and reached a consensus instantly, looking at the 3 brats with ferocious expressions. Your captain was eaten by us. It's a pity that I lost a little weight, but it's almost enough with the 3 of you. Ah, dominatrix. Why are you looking at me and saying that? Nami was speechless. What was scary was that the 2 of them were staring at her and calling her dominatrix. After explaining clearly to the 3 of them, the 3 little ghosts led everyone to the villa on the hill. According to their understanding, Usopp must be here at this time. Shin is a little curious. After all, Usopp doesn't look like a rich person in his clothes. But what is he doing here? Come and lie. Hey, that's really bad. No, it's really great. The eldest lady Kaya who lives in this villa is frail and sick, and her parents passed away a year ago, so she has always been depressed. Usopp came here to tell the adventure stories he made up to make Kaya happy. Sounds really great, but I didn't expect him to be a caring liar. Yoshi, let's ask Kaya if she can help us buy a boat. Luffy grabbed the railing with both hands, preparing to launch himself in like a slingshot. Wait a minute Luffy, we can go in through the gate. Zoro and the 3 little ones held down Luffy's head, trying to stop his intrusion, but they underestimated his flexibility. With the help of Luffy's slingshot, the 5 people successfully flew into the sky. Out of his understanding of Luffy, Shin gave up the idea of stopping Luffy and grabbed Nami who was closest to him. Nami also held her forehead and sighed. Ah, I really lost to that idiot. Are you afraid that others won't know that they broke in? But it's really convenient. If I knock on the door to visit, I don't know how long I have to wait. Shin agreed with Luffy's idea of breaking in. After all, who knows how many troublesome rules rich people have, but he didn't want to take a Luffy slingshot. Then you were holding me back just now so we can wait outside now? No, let's go in too. Do you mind if I hold you, Miss Nami? Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 15 The Housekeeper in Usopp's Past. Hey, you just stopped me because you wanted to be hugged by a princess, right? You are so frank. Just tell me next time. It only costs 10,000 Baileys. Nami was picked up like a princess, with a wicked smile on her face and one hand touching Shin's hair to tease him. What do you mean I want to do it? What do you mean I have no choice? 10,000 belly is too expensive. Shin considers himself a gentleman, but the situation is just urgent. Gathering the chakra to the soles of his feet, he stepped directly on the guardrail to use his strength, and jumped to the courtyard of the villa. It can be seen that the environment of this villa is good, the greening in the yard is good, and many trees have been planted. Use the body flicker technique to jump between trees, and in 2 or 3 times, you arrive at a big tree at the window. Standing at the window is a girl with long light yellow hair and wearing a white sleeveless dress. She should be Kaya. Hello, Uchiha Nobu, is a ninja. Shin greeted Kaya enthusiastically, but Kaya hadn't realized why 2 people suddenly appeared in the tree, and responded blankly to Shin's self-introduction. Hello, I'm Kaya. You too, are you also Usopp's companion? As expected, he is a descendant of dirty pirates. Even the partners he makes are such rude people. Hearing the third person's voice, Shin Shuan looked down. He had oily hair, glasses, and a smart suit. He used the bottom of his palm to support his eyes when he spoke. In front of him, Usopp stood with his fists clenched and his head lowered. Luffy and others also looked at him with gloomy expressions. He jumped down from the tree with Nami in his arms and put Nami down. After all, he was the one who broke in, so he couldn't get angry directly. I apologize in advance for intruding. We are indeed rude. But you insulted my friend's father. Please apologize to Usopp for what you said just now. Am I wrong? Isn't his father a dirty and evil pirate? If he now explains that he is the son of a businessman or a farmer, I will apologize to him immediately. The man with glasses was still chattering, and Usopp's anger was almost uncontrollable. I won't allow you to insult my father. He punched out and knocked the bespectacled man to the ground, but his mouth had not yet been closed. Look, use violence right away. This is what kind of father is like what kind of son. Shut up. I have always been proud that my dad is a pirate and that he is a brave sea warrior. I am the son of a pirate. The man with glasses still barked after he stood up, and even threw dirty water on Usopp, saying that he only approached Kaya for property. Usopp was so angry that he grabbed his collar and threatened to beat him again. "Stop it, Usopp. No more violence." Kaya at the window stopped him. "Krabaatl is not a bad person, he just said that for my sake." After being stopped, Usopp left with the words, "I will never come back again," amidst Krabaat's scolding. Shin grabbed Luffy, who wanted to take action, and left with the remaining people. After all, this was someone else's house. As soon as he left the villa gate, Luffy let go and ran away to find Usopp. The remaining 3 people took 2 little ghosts to rest beside the guardrail of a country road. As for why it was 2 little ghosts, it was because Onion too also disappeared as soon as he left the villa. "Oops. There's a person walking backwards. There's a strange person walking backwards." Onion shouted and ran towards the crowd, pointing behind him. Looking in the direction he pointed, a man wearing a hat walked over backwards with the pace of Michael Jackson. When he came to a few people and turned his head, he realized that the weirdo was wearing a pair of heart-shaped sunglasses on his face. "Uncle, are you doing performance art?" "What kind of performance art? I'm just a passing hypnosis artist." After hearing about hypnosis, the 3 little ones became interested and clamored for weird performances. Several teachers also appeared in Shin's mind. The weirdo said he would not perform, but he quickly took out his own hypnosis prop and placed it in front of the 3 little ones, a sharp-looking circular knife. Shin also looked over, not because he wanted to learn the skills secretly, but mainly because he was afraid that weird people would do something to the 3 little ones. "Look carefully at the circle. You will fall asleep after I say 1, 2, Django." 1, 2, Django. Hypnosis was very successful. All 3 little ones fell asleep, and so did the hypnosis master. Before Zoro could complain, the letter that had been sitting on the guardrail fell on top of him. "Why do you get hypnosis, you bastard hedgehog? You only have an IQ of 6 years old." "No, he actually fell asleep. He is really an evil hypnosis master. You were the one who took the initiative to stare at other people's circles, idiot." After hearing Shin's first words when he woke up, Zoro complained speechlessly. The hypnosis master had disappeared. Shin didn't wake up on his own, he woke up due to the impact of memories caused by the dissipation of the Shadow Bunshin. When he walked out of the villa, he specially assigned a shadow clone to go to the village to inquire about the situation. Mainly because of the situation of Usopp and Krabaatl, he clapped his hands and called Nami over, who was playing with 3 little ones. The letter talked about the news obtained by Shadow Clone. Usopp is indeed the son of a pirate, but he has almost never met his father. Usopp went to sea when he was very young, leaving his mother to care for him. Later, his mother became seriously ill. In order to cheer her up, Usopp shouted, "The pirates are coming," in the village every day. He didn't directly say that his father was back. After all, he didn't know what his father looked like. He could only shout, "The pirates are coming," to bring some comfort to his mother, but Usopp never came back and his mother also died of illness. But Usopp still shouted, "The pirates are coming," every day in the village. The villagers said they wanted to teach this liar a lesson, but it could be seen that they didn't really hate Usopp, they were just talking about it. I remembered that Usopp had once been to Luffy's village. Even though it was so close, Usopp had never come back to visit. Although Usopp admired his father very much, Shin couldn't help but say, "Bah! Scumbag! Krabaatl is the steward of Kaya. He made a mistake 3 years ago and was kicked out of the ship where he worked." With no job and no money, she fainted from hunger at the door of the villa and was taken in by Kaya's parents. A year ago, Kaya's parents passed away, and he took good care of Kaya. Unlike Usopp, Krabaatl has a very good reputation among the villagers and can almost be said to be a perfect person. Having said this, Shin took a breath, then looked at the 2 of them and said, "What follows may be a bit subjective. I observed it with Sharingan. When Usopp made his move, the butler's eyes clearly noticed Usopp's movements. Logically speaking, he could have avoided it, but he didn't. Instead, he took a punch from Usopp. And he actually fainted at the door of the villa. It was at the top of the mountain. He was so hungry that he could obviously beg for some food in the village. Of course, we can't rule out that this guy is very ambitious. He doesn't eat what he begs for and climbs up the mountain just to apply for a job. But I still think that this housekeeper has other motives, and it is more likely that he deliberately approached Kaya's family." Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 16 Usopp's decision in the Earth Flow Castle Wall. "Usopp, isn't Luffy with you?" Usopp was seen running past several people without saying a word, but Luffy was not seen. Shin couldn't help but feel a little anxious. After all, he had seen Luffy's ability to cause trouble several times. A shadow clone was separated and followed Usopp quietly. He hurriedly asked the 3 little ones where Luffy might be. The group of people came all the way to the cliff where Usopp often went. If the 2 of them were together just now, Luffy should be here too. But after searching carefully, Luffy was nowhere to be seen until Shin poked his head out. Luffy was plunging into the soil under the cliff in an upside-down manner. That idiot! Shin held his forehead and sighed. Luffy could always come up with something new for him. Hey, he fell from such a high place, is he still alive? The 3 little ones were so frightened that they thought Luffy had been thrown to death. Shin knew Luffy's physique, so he grabbed Luffy's legs and pulled him out of the soil. Then he slapped Luffy on the face several times. "Wake up, Luffy. How can you sleep at your age?" "Ah, what? It's you guys who are here." Luffy yawned first and looked at the people with sleepy eyes. After finding a relatively clean ground to sit on, Shin asked what happened here. Luffy recalled it carefully. Originally he and Usopp came here to relax, but the butler and a weirdo suddenly appeared below to conspire. The butler is not a good guy, he is also a pirate, and he sneaked into Kaya's house for Kaya's property. He also said that it is not just family property, but also a stable life. Tomorrow morning, pirates will attack here. That weirdo is also a hypnosis master. When the time comes they will kill Hypnosis Kaya after writing her will. What a shame, that hypnosis master. That's right, that evil hypnosis master. Shin nodded in agreement. Why are you both falling for this trick? Nami made fangs on the side and yelled at the two of them. Why would anyone fall into such a child's trick? Ahem. Anyway, pirates are really coming, so what are we going to do? Do we want to fight? Shin coughed twice and asked Luffy's opinion. Except for Usopp and the three little ones, no one else on the island had much to do with them. Of course. But you have to wait a moment. Luffy was definitely going to save this place, but he decided to wait and see Usopp's reaction first. Pung. The shadow clone dissipated, and there was another memory in Shin's mind. Usopp hurried to Kaya's house and told Kaya the truth, but his usual style made no one believe his words. Then he tried to take Kaya away by force, but was slapped, and another housekeeper in the villa, Melly, shot him in the shoulder. Chased by the guards and villagers, Usopp ran away in embarrassment. What would you do if something like this happened, Usopp? Shin murmured to himself. Let's go find Usopp. Everyone saw Usopp again on the path under the sunset. Usopp hid his injured left hand behind his back. Hey, are you still alive? Seeing Luffy, Usopp was shocked. Let's go tell everyone about the pirates, Captain. The three little ones hurriedly wanted to take Usopp away. Usopp seemed to have thought of something. He kept his head down and said nothing, but suddenly raised his head and laughed. Ha 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 ha, that's a lie. Because I didn't like that butler, that's why I said he was a pirate. So this is the captain and the brother wearing the straw hat have colluded for a long time. The three little ones also laughed and passed by Usopp. Captain, I despise you. Me too. No matter how bad the butler is, I don't think the captain would tell lies that slander others. We respect the captain very much. Me too. Captain, I misjudged you. The three little ones went home facing the sunset, leaving only the lonely Usopp. Shin and Luffy, two people who knew what happened, remained silent. Shin once again separated a shadow clone and went to the villa. Then he and everyone returned to the seaside under the cliff. Shin was using healing jutsu to help Usopp treat his injured left arm, and Luffy finally asked the question. Why did you say that? Because I'm a liar. No one would believe me. I was so naive. Zoro took a step forward and said. Naive to be naive, but the truth is also true, Nami continued. The pirates are really coming, aren't they? Yeah, but everyone thought I was lying. Since they think tomorrow will be a peaceful day. Then I will fight the pirates on the coast and make this a complete lie. The sun will rise as usual tomorrow, and the so-called pirates are coming. It's just another lie from the great liar Usopp. While talking, Usopp burst into tears. It doesn't matter if they hit me with a gun or chase me with a broomstick. This is my village. I like this village so much and I want to protect everyone. The four people who heard this smiled, and Zoro put his hand on the knife handle. You are such a bad person, you actually want to leave your friends and do it yourself. Let me declare first that the pirate's treasure belongs to me. Then let me show you how Genin fights. Yoshi, let's join in too. Looking at the four partners in front of him who had only known each other for a day and then decisively helped him, he wiped his tears and still managed to say. The opponent is the Crow Pirates. I don't need your sympathy, let's go. We didn't look down on you, we just decided to help you because we thought you were great. We won't fight for sympathy. Shin walked forward and hooked Usopp's neck. Yes, we decided to take action because of you. Usopp, who was still moved, immediately broke the news. Don't use such misleading terms, ha 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 ha. The East Blue Shore is where Crow and Zango conspired, and Usopp believes that pirates will enter from here if they attack. The road from the East Blue Bank to the village has only a slope and the rest is a cliff. So as long as you guard the slope, you can completely block the pirates. That's what I say, but it still depends on tactics. Let's talk about what you will do first, right? Kill people, elongation, breathing fire, steal something. I'm hiding, you also have to fight together. The four of them transformed into fangs to deal with Usopp. Speaking of which, we just need to control the slope, right? Shin looked at the slope and felt that he could hold it alone. Usopp was about to go back to move the oil and pour it here. Hearing this, he answered Shin's question with some reason. That's probably it. What's wrong? Do you have any ideas? Shin smiled confidently, raised his thumb, and showed a youthful smile to Usopp. Don't underestimate ninjas. Luffy became interested instantly and jumped up and down around the letter. Ah ho, I can see ninjutsu again. You are really all-powerful, hedgehog head. Are you going to use the fireball from last time? No, Earth style is obviously more suitable here. Shin walked to the bottom of the slope and formed a seal with his hands. Earth style castle wall. Without touching the ground with both hands, the ground under Shin's feet began to rise on its own until it was level with the cliff. A thick stone wall fits perfectly with the cliff, completely blocking the slope. This is the effect of Shin's restrained chakra. If it is released at full strength, it can be as high as a hill. See Gay. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 17 Preparation before the battle, Shin vs. Crow. A huge stone wall blocked the entire ramp, and below were Luffy and Usopp who were shouting and their eyes were shining. Jumped down and refused Luffy's invitation to hug. That'll be alright, if they attack from here. Usopp was originally prepared to die in the battle, but the letter suddenly blocked the road. Then we can still stand on the cliff, attack from above, and beat up the drowned dogs. That's true, but are the pirates really attacking from here? Isn't there a ramp on the North Blue Shore where we landed? Well, I think they are plotting here, so they should also attack from here, right? Usopp was a little unsure. He just saw Crow and Zangao conspiring here, and he preconceived the idea that the pirates would attack from here. Nami came up and interrupted. After all, you're not sure. North Blue Shore. Our treasure is still there. Nami, who was still accusing her, suddenly changed her face and hurriedly ran to the North Blue Shore. Shin grabbed Nami by the scruff of her neck and signaled her to calm down. You should ask for the specific directions first. In that case, Nami, Usopp and I will go to the North Blue Shore. Luffy and Zoro will stay here first. If enemies come from the North Blue Shore, I will notify you. Is that okay, Luffy? I also didn't forget to ask Luffy's opinion. Normally, it's okay to mess around, but now that we're about to face a battle, Luffy is the absolute leader. Okay, but how do I notify you? Are you going to run back again? HMPH, Shadow Clone Technique. After a puff of smoke, there were two more shadow clones beside Shin. He patted his clones number 2 and number 3, and said proudly. Just rely on them. I will leave clone 2 here with you, and clone 3 will go with us to the North Blue Shore. If enemies come from the North Blue Shore, and clone 3 dissipates, the memory will be transferred to my main body and clone 2. Similarly, if an enemy comes here and clone 2 dissipates, clone 3 and I will also receive the memory and get the news. Nami and the 3 people were all surprised. They had never seen a phone bug before, and they only thought that this method of communication was very special and convenient. Luffy's face was serious, and he made a fist with his right hand and hit the palm of his left hand. It turns out to be an incredible clone. You didn't understand it all, did you, idiot? Shin transformed into a fang shape and was completely defeated by his idiot captain. Sighing, he gave one final warning. Anyway, just stay here, number 2. Zoro, keep an eye on Luffy. The shadow clone will dissipate after receiving a certain amount of attacks. Don't let Luffy disappear. What a pity. I still want to chop it and see how it feels. You are so confident, green algae head, give it a try, even a clone is enough to take care of you. I can shave that annoying prickly head of yours with just a knife? Then I'll only use one. Before Shin could finish his cruel words, Nami had already dragged him away by his ears. Zoro, who had won the victory, had no time to feel proud. The clone number 2 beside him spoke. Then I can beat your green algae head into a sea urchin with just one hand. Several, appeared on Zoro's forehead instantly. The clone's personality was just as bad. Just a clone, shut up, I'm afraid the breath of my words will blow you away. Don't say it's a clone. Even a clone of my clone is enough to deal with you, a road idiot. Zoro and the clone 2 started another bickering battle, and Luffy had already climbed to the top of the wall of the Earthflow City. Looking into the distance, looking forward to the arrival of the enemy. The Nami trio on the other side arrived at the North Blue Shore, and clone 3 had already dissipated. All they had to do was wait for the enemy to come and use Shadow Clone to remove it immediately. There was no need to maintain it all the time. After leaving Zoro, Shin returned to his serious and reliable appearance. Nami took the treasure out of the ship and placed it next to him. And Shin is also planning to transform this ramp, Earth-style yellow Quanuma. Clap your hands on the ground, and with the release of chakra, the entire slope turns into a swamp. Clap your hands, and the preparations are complete. If the pirates attack from here, they can have some fun themselves. Wearing a well-dressed suit, with a pair of curved horns on his head, and a head full of white curly hair, he looks like a sheep. This is another housekeeper in the villa, Melly, who is cleaning the chandelier. Click, Melly heard the sound of the door being opened. It was another butler, Krabater, who was back. You're back, Mr. Krabatle. Crow acted very coldly. His plan was about to succeed and he no longer had the desire to continue acting. When he walked to the window, he noticed a gift box on the table. He opened it and saw a pair of glasses inside. At this time, Melly came over and explained to him. My lady noticed that your glasses often slipped off, so she asked someone to customize a new pair. It's been almost 3 years since you've been here, so consider it an anniversary gift. Crow had a weird smile on his face. It is indeed an anniversary. Then he used his palms hard to crush the new pair of glasses. But this is not the gift I want. Crobottle, what are you doing? Crow has already put on a cat claw glove on his right hand. The difference is that each claw is the length of an ordinary sword. He held up his glasses with the palm of his hand. This action could prevent him from being accidentally injured by the cat's claws when holding his glasses. It's been 3 years. Anyway, the accident will happen in a few hours. I don't need to pretend anymore. With a fierce smile on his face, Crow was about to take action against Mary, but when he swung his cat's claw down, Mary had disappeared. The letter's voice also rang at this time. Hey, don't you talk about the old relationship at all? You have worked together for 3 years after all. Appearing here was Shin's clone number 1, who had previously used transformation technique to disguise himself as a guard. Hearing the movement in the villa, he immediately rushed over and rescued Melly. That rude brat during the day? Did you come here to die? Putting Mary aside and asking him to wake up Kaya, Shin opened the Sharingan and looked directly at Crow. No, I'm here to act as a messenger of justice to stop you, Pirate Crow. Magic Narakumi technique. The scene in front of me changed instantly, the bright villa turned into a dark cabin, and a shout of praise came from my ears. Captain, Marine is chasing me again, what should we do? Crow's expression changed drastically. How could it be possible? Didn't he fake his own death and escape 3 years ago? Why does it appear on the pirate ship? Why is Marine still staring at him? Could it be that the past 3 years were all my imagination? Looking at the captain's uniform on his body, Crow couldn't believe it. Walking out of the cabin, he saw countless warships surrounding his ship. There were no Zangao or his men around him. Instead, they were all Marine soldiers whose faces could not be seen clearly. They were approaching step by step with weapons in their hands, surrounding him. Crow couldn't breathe in this depressing atmosphere. He was tired of being hunted, so he faked his death and escaped in order to live a rich life. Impossible. Impossible. I'm not Crow, I'm Crobottle. Crow shouted at the top of his lungs while wielding his cat claws to kill the soldiers. But no matter how many Marines he killed, there were always new Marines coming in to surround him. Well, with a sharp pain on his shoulder, the scene in front of Crow disappeared and he returned to the bright villa. There was a kunai on his shoulder, and a letter waiting in front of him. Did you do it? Crow raised his cat's paw again and pointed it at Shin, asking him. That's right, Captain Crow, do you want to continue fighting? Shin replied calmly. The eyes hidden in the shadows were staring at the calm hedgehog-headed boy in front of him. This phantom attack made him a little panicked. Now is not the time to kill Kaya. What he wants is for Kaya to leave a will so that he can inherit the property legitimately. He decided to retreat temporarily and wait for the arrival of Zangao and his men, but this time he needed to kill more people. At the very least, the 2 insiders, the brat and Mary, must be dealt with. As for Usopp, no one would believe anything that Big Talker said. Crow nimbly jumped away from the window, took away the suitcase containing his weapons, and disappeared into the night. Shin also breathed a sigh of relief. After all, he was just a clone and would disappear if attacked. We also have to take care of Kaya and Mary in the villa and cannot use powerful ninjutsu. Small ninjutsu didn't do much harm, so I could only use illusion, but I didn't expect that Crow was still waving around to attack after being hit by illusion. In order to avoid being attacked, Nobu could only throw a kunai in the past. He originally aimed at the head, but unfortunately it was blocked and deflected to the shoulder. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 18. Can you defeat me with 17 cards? Hello, I am Uchiha Nobu, a ninja. Shin greeted Kaya and Melly warmly. Kaya, wearing a sleeveless white dress and a blanket, was helped by Melly to the living room. The living room is full of knife marks caused by Crow, as well as bits of bloodline he left behind. Melly had also told Kaya about Crobottle's attempt to attack him before, but when she heard there was no movement in the living room, Kaya still insisted on coming down to take a look. Nobu-san, can you tell me what happened? Is Crobottle really a pirate? Kaya was a little confused at this time, and still couldn't believe that the butler who had been with her for 3 years was actually a pirate. Shin was a little speechless. The facts were right in front of him. Usopp came to see you this evening, he was right. In the evening, Clone 1 followed Usopp here, and after Usopp was driven away, he transformed into a guard and stayed. Kaya suddenly collapsed on the ground, with pain and regret in her tone. Usopp. Thinking of Usopp risking his life to warn him, he not only didn't appreciate it, but also slapped him. Mr. Shin. Where is Usopp now? I want to say sorry to him in person. He should be on the North Blue Shore now. Because you all didn't believe that the pirates were coming, he decided to stop the pirates and let this matter become his lie. Because the Clone 3 dissipated, the memory was also conveyed to the Clone 1, so he knew where everyone was going. At this time, Clone number 1 was also struggling with whether to disband on his own and transfer the memory back to the main body, or to stay here and guard Kaya. As for escorting Kaya to Usopp, that's fine, it's better to say it's safer. No one knows whether Crow will come back and kidnap Kaya. It's safer to stay with the main body. After careful consideration, Clone 1 decided to escort Kaya to the North Blue Shore. The pros and cons were clearly explained to Kaya, and Kaya agreed to the suggestion. After all, she originally wanted to apologize to Usopp quickly. Pair 2 inches. I only have 2 cards left. Nami, hurry up Nami, don't dawdle. Bomb. With 17 cards, can you kill me instantly? Can you kill me instantly? You can beat me tonight with 17 cards. I'll eat this kunai on the spot. Airplane. Letter. Okay, 5,000 belly per person. What? Why does Nami win every time? The 3 Kaya people who came from the villa saw this scene as soon as they arrived. Nami happily clapped her hands and prepared to receive the money. Usopp looked pained and prepared to take the money from his messenger bag. Shin was holding a handful of kunai and gesticulating with his mouth, as if he was thinking about how to eat it without sore throat. Pung. Clone number 1, who felt ashamed of his true form, was relieved on his own. Nobu also instantly gained number 1's memory and looked back at Kaya and Mary. Hello, Miss Kaya, Melissa. Usopp, stop crying, Kaya is here. Usopp, who had lost a lot tonight and was about to be wiped out, jumped up instantly and saw Kaya. Kaya. Why are you here? That bastard housekeeper didn't do anything to you, right? Kaya shook her head apologetically and did not answer Usopp's question first. I'm sorry, Usopp, I misunderstood you earlier and hit you, please forgive me. Usopp, who had not experienced this battle, blushed instantly and waved his hands. This matter, I have forgotten about it a long time ago. I am a brave sea warrior. How could you hurt me like that? Seeing her sweetheart's reaction, Kaya also laughed. Krabetel is indeed a bad guy. If Mr. Shin hadn't arrived in time, Melly and I might have encountered something unexpected. Letter. Usopp and Nami looked at the ninja who had been playing cards with them all night in shock. Shin calmly put down his kunai and stood up as if nothing had happened. Didn't I tell you? When Usopp went to Kaya's house, I sent a shadow clone to follow him. So why didn't you come out and explain to me then, you bastard? It's useless for me to show up. Crow's reputation is too good. Then you saw me being chased in the end, why didn't you take me and run away? That's me testing your sincerity for Miss Kaya. Shin-san. What are you talking about? 3 sentences made the young couple blush, and Shin even took the time to give Nami a thumbs up. Then, the 5 of them sat on the floor and talked. In order to care for Kaya, who was weak and wore thin clothes, the letter was specially lit. Fortunately Luffy wasn't here, otherwise we would have had another bonfire party. The sun gradually emerged, and it was morning. It was the time for the pirate attack planned by Crow. Everyone ended their chat, and Shin asked Mary, Kaya and Nami to retreat. In fact, Shin felt that he could do it alone. But Usopp said nothing and did not retreat. Although his legs were shaking, he still shouted. This is my village and I want to protect it with my own hands. He patted Usopp on the shoulder, almost knocking him down, and then pointed to the sea in the distance. Have some backbone, then I'll leave the rest to you. I saw a 3-masted sailing ship approaching on the sea in the distance. It was overall black and red. On each mast was hung a pirate flag with golden eyes and a cat's mouth on the upper part of its mouth. The most eye-catching thing is the black cat head with a big mouth on the front of the ship. The letter created a shadow clone, and then immediately released it, conveying the news here to the second clone. The second clone, who was also playing cards with Luffy Zoro, immediately threw down the bad cards in his hand. Here comes news. The enemy is coming from the North Blue Bank. Just say it. Why are you throwing the cards? I finally won a round. Because he often teams up with Luffy, Zoro loses more than he wins tonight, but he also knows that now is not the time to dwell on these things, so he stands up and prepares to go. Luffy had already started sprinting, but in the wrong direction. The letter led Zoro and started to rush to the North Blue Shore. Captain Zangao, why is this a swamp? How'd I know? After hearing the questions from his subordinates, Zangao also answered with a gloomy expression. He was a little panicked. Crow's shadow lingered in his heart. If he didn't arrive in time, Crow would definitely kill him. Tear down some planks from the boat, put them on the swamp and get through here. Fortunately, he still has some knowledge. Although this method is not very safe, you can still pass through the swamp as long as you are careful. However, there were other guards here, as the pirates laid planks on the swamp and prepared to move forward. A lead bullet was fired, accurately hitting the head of a pirate. His body tilted and fell into the swamp. Hearing the screams of their companions, the remaining pirates couldn't help but look up the slope. Only a long nose was seen standing there, holding a slingshot. I am Usopp, the great pirate who rules this village. You will never be allowed to pass here, ads by Big Gear. Chapter 19 Compound Ninjutsu and Firefighting Captain. That long nose, damn it. Zangao stared at Usopp high up and said in an unhappy tone. There's nothing we can do, we have to hurry. As he spoke, he took out his hypnosis tool, the circle knife, and said to his subordinates. You guys, look at this. When I say, 1, 2, Django, you will become infinitely stronger, not afraid of pain, and good at climbing. 1, 2, Django. This time, Zan lowered his hat to block his vision and prevent himself from being passed by hypnosis. The pirates, whose morale was low just now, suddenly turned red and their muscles bulged. One after another, they climbed onto the cliff, and some relied on brute strength to forcefully carve out a foothold on the stone wall. Some are master climbers who can stabilize their bodies with a little support. No matter what, they were approaching Usopp step by step, and Usopp was also frightened by this scene. The previous pirates were just fierce, but now the pirates are almost inhuman. He raised the slingshot tremblingly, and although he was scared, he accurately hit one pirate after another. HMPH, kid, don't underestimate my hypnosis. Zangao, who was standing behind, spoke confidently. Although the pirates were hit, their bodies did not retreat at all, as if they did not know the pain. Occasionally, some unlucky ones would be shot down. As long as they didn't land on the swamp, they would quickly adjust their posture and stabilize themselves on the stone wall again. Lead star. Lead star. Gunpowder star. Usopp fired at the pirates one after another, occasionally knocking down a pirate and falling to the swamp without taking a step back. Damn it. Damn it. Just now you were talking about protecting the village with your own hands, but now you are in such a mess. What kind of sea warrior am I? I'm too weak. While he attacked vigorously, he blamed himself for being weak. Just these little minions had forced him into a desperate situation. If it hadn't been for the swamp created by Shin, I would have probably lost long ago, right? Kaya from behind looked at her sweetheart's efforts. She was proud of Usopp's courage, but couldn't help but worry about Usopp's safety. Seeing the pirates getting closer and closer to Usopp, Kaya couldn't help but rush out to help Usopp. Nami stopped her with quick eyesight and hands. After all, Kaya's body would be a hindrance if she rushed forward. Waving again to calm down Mary, who was preparing to take action, she pointed at Shin's figure. Have you forgotten someone? Although he seems unreliable, he is very powerful. He won't let his comrades die. As Nami said, when the first pirate rushed in front of Usopp and waved his sword, Nobu, who had been watching the battle, kicked the pirate away. Then he looked down at Usopp, who was collapsed on the ground, and said in a cold tone. Is this how you protect the village? Just collapse to the ground when you see a pirate. You can't protect anything. I can protect it, Usopp shouted at Shin, slapping his thigh hard at the same time. Damn it. Damn it. Stand up, don't you want to be a brave sea warrior? Although his legs were still shaking, Usopp finally stood up, and the second pirate also arrived. Taking out the hammer from his crossbody bag, Usopp shouted and rushed towards him, dodging the first slashing attack. A hammer hit the pirate on the chin, knocking him to the ground. In front of him, the pirate was trying to get up. Usopp directly straddled him and kept beating the corpse with the hammer. But he didn't notice that the third pirate was already on top of his head, and his sword was aimed at Usopp's neck. This time Shin did not take action because he saw a green algae head. The sword in his left hand blocked the pirate's attack, and the sword in his right hand chopped him to the ground. On a chaotic battlefield, you must always pay attention to the signs of trouble. So, Zoro, well done, can you still stand up? Shin also came over, a smile on his face, and reached out to pull Usopp. He could see that although Usopp had the will to fight, he was timid. Although he had the consciousness to sacrifice his life, he was timid. Although Usopp had great shooting skills, he was timid. So he sarcastically tried to inspire Usopp's courage, and it seemed to be working well now. Although he lacked combat experience, his courage was worthy of praise. Leave it to us next, pulled Usopp up and comforted him. Zoro had already defeated 3 approaching pirates at this time. He suddenly thought of something and looked at the letter while facing the enemy. Hey, hedgehog-head, let's see who can defeat more enemies. Huh? Let's get 3 points first and then talk about the game. You are really a smart pirate hunter? TCH, then start over. No need, just cherish the 3 points in your hand. After kicking a pirate over, Shin looked at the pirates who were still climbing and trying to rush over. There were probably 40 or 50 more of them. Pung. A shadow clone appeared next to Shin, and the next move required 2 people. Fire style How Long Fire, Wind style Great Breakthrough. A dragon's head made of concentrated flames erupted from the mouth, but Shin did not stop releasing the chakra. A raging storm came out of the clone's mouth, and as the amount of chakra was released, the force of the wind continued to increase. The fire took advantage of the wind, and the dragon's head climbed upwards. A body made of flames appeared behind him, and a complete flame dragon appeared in front of everyone. Compound ninjutsu Fire Dragon Wind Control. The fire dragon crossed the ramp with turbulent momentum. Because it was his first attempt, Shin could not control the fire dragon very well, so he had to let it rush out in a daze. Although Zangao and some of the pirates who were far away escaped, most of the pirates were still fainted by the flames, or fell into the swamp and were completely buried by the gradually hardening land. Then the fire dragon's momentum continued unabated and headed towards the sea, igniting the mast of the Black Cat pirate ship and then sprinted for a distance before dissipating. It turned out that the swamp had been dried out, and there were dozens of burnt and blackened pirates lying on the ground, and some unlucky ones were trapped in the dried out swamp. Looking at the scene he created in front of him, Shin nodded, very satisfied. Just as he was about to turn around and taunt a certain 3-pointer, he was suddenly punched in the back of the head. Boom! Nami jumped up and punched Nobu on the head. Why did you burn their ship? Treasure inside. The letter is a bit innocent. This is not my first time using it. Besides, gold cannot be burned. Where's Bailey inside? Where's the navigation chart? Those are treasures. I don't care, you go put out the fire. Oh, Shin had no choice but to start making seals again with a resigned face. Water-style water dragon bomb technique. After summoning a water dragon from the sea to extinguish the flames, Shin turned back to look at Zoro. How about my move, some green algae head who only got 3 points? But the bulge on his head greatly reduced the intensity of the taunt, and Zoro also found an angle to fight back. Not bad, enough to be a firefighting brigade captain in the village. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 20. The end of the battle, Unlucky Crow. What is a firefighting captain? A 3-point player. Then let's call him a juggler. As expected, Shin and Zoro quarreled again. Zangao below is not so leisurely and relaxed, he is now panicking. Is that hedgehog a devil? He would have been easily hypnosis-ed by me yesterday. A trace of cold sweat ran down his forehead, and he thought of the captain wearing glasses again. Damn it, if you don't arrive at the village on time, you will definitely be killed. Brother Catman, he shouted back at the pirate ship. What's wrong, Captain Zangao? It was fire and water just now, what happened? A thin and honest voice came from the pirate ship, and 2 pirates, one fat and one thin, also emerged from the ship. A very difficult enemy has appeared. Go and deal with him. Huh? Us? No, we're just handymen cleaning the deck. The 2 people on the boat hurriedly waved their hands and refused, almost crying. Zangao had veins popping out on his forehead, dissatisfied that the 2 of them were still acting now. Stop talking nonsense. Come on now. Watching 2 pirates, one fat and one thin, running towards here with their hands raised, wailing loudly. Shin and Zoro stopped arguing and started playing guessing games instead. I win. These 2 people are mine. This time it was Zoro who won, looking at the 2 pirates with excitement. Pulling out 3 knives and getting ready, Zoro slowly walked towards the Catman brothers. Shin couldn't help but remind him that through Sharingan's observation, it can be seen that these 2 people are stronger than ordinary pirates. Don't be careless, Zoro. If you can't beat him, ask me for help and I will take action. Zoro bit a word in his mouth, and his words were still very clear. Hey, look how I can kill you with one strike. Possibly stimulated by Nobu's Fire Dragon wind control, Zoro was also preparing to use his ultimate move. Cross your arms in front of your chest, with the blade of the knife held in both hands facing outward. 3 swordsman style. Ghost Slayer. As if carrying the aura of a ghost, Zoro rushed towards the Cat brothers. No longer thinking about acting, the 2 of them stretched out their cat claws to resist, but in the end they were just one move away from each other. Each one of them slashed at them, and they could only scream and be knocked back to Zango's position. The thin one has no breath, and the strong one relies on fat to resist, but still has a breath. He grabbed Zango's ankle and wanted Zangao to perform hypnosis, but Zangao couldn't do it at this time. Don't move. Zoro had already arrived in front of him, and Hedao Yuen was resting on his neck. This isn't a one-and-done solution, Zoro. Shin walked down with Nami and 4 others at this time. Before anyone arrived, the ridicule arrived first. Zoro did not put away the knife, turned around and turned into a shark face and shouted at the letter. What I just said was to kill those 2, one fat and one thin, with one blow. Then you are not just a sword. Look, that one is still alive. Ah. Zoro looked at the fat pirate lying on the ground with a fierce look. He also gave Zoro face and fainted. Look, why can't it be solved with one knife? You obviously scared him to death. Then stay away from me, I'm afraid I'll scare you. I'm not afraid of a third-rate swordsman who only uses children's tricks to scare people. Boom. Dwang. Nami defeated these 2 competitive and childish ghosts with one punch. Okay, there's still one thing Crow hasn't solved yet. By the way, there's Luffy too. After calming down, Shin finally remembered the business, based on the memories sent back by Shadow Clone. He only remembered that Luffy ran in the wrong direction, and he didn't know where he was now. Shin was thinking about whether to use Shadow Clone to go out to find Luffy, or to find Crow first, when he suddenly heard Luffy's voice. Hey, you are here, finally found, Shin, why don't you tell me the direction? Luffy was holding a figure in his hand, waving and complaining to the letter. Boom. Luffy got punched in the head. You obviously rushed out without even listening. Ah, really, ha 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 ha. When Luffy came closer, everyone saw clearly that the figure he was holding was none other than Crow. He no longer acted like a gentleman before, his glasses were broken, his suit pants were torn, and his face was bruised and swollen with many big bumps. Kerbottle. Kaya covered her mouth in shock and leaned into Usopp's arms, not changing the way of addressing her for a moment. After comforting his little girlfriend in his arms, Usopp asked aloud. What the hell happened, Luffy? Where did you meet him? Luffy threw Crow to the ground, folded his hands and lowered his head to think for a moment. Because the letter didn't tell me the direction, I could only run wildly in the village. I told you because you didn't even listen, you bastard. Anyway, I met him in a forest, muttering something. Move from the rear, sneak up on you, damn Uchiha brats and the like. He immediately attacked me when he saw me, then I beat him up. Luffy crossed his arms and nodded seriously, as if it was a great thing to be able to recall so many details. It's so simple. Listening to Luffy's little narration, The 5 of them couldn't help but complain. Anyway, Crow has also been defeated, and now only Mr. Zangao is left. Shin's brows relaxed and he breathed a sigh of relief. As for the remaining pirates, no one cares about them. Then he asked, "What to do with the rest, Captain?" Luffy frowned, obviously not thinking about this issue. Shin suggested from the side, "How about we contact Marine and arrest them all?" "Oh, turns out it can still be like this." Luffy tapped his palm and suddenly realized. Shin held his forehead and was about to be completely defeated by his idiot captain. He turned to look at Mary and asked, "Mr. Mary, is there any way you can contact Marine?" "Okay, there's a phone bug in the villa." "Phone bug? What is that?" "Anyway, these people are asking you to contact Marine to take over." "Give it to me." Melly looked confident. Although he didn't help much in the battle, he could still do this little thing. He supported Kaya, who had been blown by the cold wind all night, and prepared to return to the villa, contacting the guards to come here to look after the remaining pirates. In order to prevent Django and the other pirates who were still awake from causing trouble again, Shin planned to let them sleep too. Magic Narakumi technique. "Ah, please let me go, Captain." Zangao and the other conscious pirates screamed instantly. It sounded like the person they were most afraid of was their Captain Crow. "Letter. What are you doing?" Luffy was bouncing the invitation letter with a big smile on his face. "We're going treasure hunting. I wonder if there's anything interesting on their ship." The 4 of them stood in front of the Black Cat Pirates' 3-masted sailboat. Luffy and Usopp couldn't wait. Zoro crossed his arms and smiled, wondering if there was a better knife on the ship for him to replace. As for Nami, just look at her eyes as she transforms into Bailey. Coming, ads by Bid Gear.